Hello.
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 Oh my god. Hello. I'm so sorry, guys.
I'm not sorry.
Neither am I.
Oh, my Fugi.
I am. I'm sorry.
My Fugi wasn't right.
Oh yeah, it did get swapped back.
Go back. I gotta go back to... Well, I just need to change it real quick.
I'm gonna have to probably adjust it because I did make you a little smaller.
Oh.
Miles got tiny-fied.
Tiny-fied.
Might be.
I'll just make him smaller.
Mm-hmm. Isles Edgeworth.
Isles Edgeworth.
I kind of want to make a bunny IF. Oh god. You put me in the pocket? Can you put me in the little like?
Oh wait, can I? Hold on.
This pocket?
You probably could.
Yeah, because
oh well,
it's cut off,
I have
right?
to put you, I have to put you in front of me. I have to put you in front of me. Where are you?
You got this.
It's gonna be a little funny because I move.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Centimeters Edgeworth.
Centimeters Edgeworth.
Hold on, I might be able to do it if I do it like this. Hold on, you guys are gonna see. If I do it like this, and I don't.
Oh my goodness. That's so epic.
I'm in your pocket. Can you make me like slightly bigger?
Yeah, I made you a little bigger.
Great.
Just to fit right in there.
This is perfect.
Nice and snug.
I feel like the stream layout for where we're positioned changes a little bit.
Every single day.
Yeah, it's fine.
And it's so epic.
Every day changes.
We stay silly.
We stay silly.
Inches Edward.
Yeah, centimeters Edgeworth.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I'm I'll just leave you there for now, I guess.
Yeah.
You're so tiny.
My pocket lawyer.
The pocket lawyer.
My pocket monster.
This is so
Miles
stupid.
Edgeworth, I choose you.
Oh my god.
I'm so stupid. Okay. Anyway.
We stay so silly.
This game is always so loud. Oh my god, hold on. Let me turn up this. Turn you guys up on my headphones so I can hear you.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay.
We're in your ear.
Oh god.
Just one.
Just one.
I'm in the other one.
Not in the other one.
Yeah.
No evidence.
We're each in one ear.
Exactly.
They're the
ASMR.
they're like the angel devil on my shoulders.
Yeah, which one's
but
the
they're both devils.
Good call.
They're both the devil.
You take a chat. Which one of us is the angel and which one of us is the devil?
Well, one of you is the angel in the Lucifer sense, one of you is the devil also in the Lucifer sense.
In the Satan sense, yeah.
Fair enough.
Which is which, I wonder?
Gee.
Well, Miki's always asking for death and blood and murder.
Well, I'm not. That's
so
a
I
lie.
feel like Miki is.
Miki might be Satan.
Miki is Satan.
Miki Satan's real? Oh my god.
We gotta Miki, that's a great PNG idea. We gotta make Angel a devil on the shoulders.
Oh, that'd be so
that would be
funny.
really funny.
That'd be so silly.
That would be so silly.
Yeah.
That would be really cute.
That would be
really
cute.
I can pull out the pink design that I have that I still
Oh
think
yeah.
is cute.
I just had to do like an impish Miki.
I mean
Yeah,
your Keekside design, the new one.
Yeah.
You got the wings, I guess. On the
Yeah,
head.
I guess so. On the head. But I get tired drawing them. I want to draw something
that's fine.
stupid.
That's real.
That's fair.
I want to draw something goofy as hell.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Disregard my.
Oh, you know what it is? Also, actually, I realized angels have a lot of eyes, and Miki doesn't have a lot of eyes.
Oh.
So obviously, by process of elimination of the person who has a lot of eyes,
by default, I cannot be an angel. That's crazy.
Not be an angel, no eyes.
No eyes. The I in Aya stands for eyes.
Is there an eye?
Wouldn't you like to know?
Have I been spelling it wrong this entire time?
Yeah, there's actually supposed to be an eyeball emoji in there somewhere.
Oh,
Okay,
Yeah, I
alright.
won't tell you where.
Oh, okay, alright.
Find it. Aya, like Maya? No,
oh.
you spelled it wrong. Death. No, I'm
Death.
joking.
Death be upon you.
Damn.
Execution. No,
Right now, no.
no. I've just been drawing my little Sona as it's just me, but with like fucked up glasses that have a lot of eyeballs in them.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Oh, the fishing. Oh, the fishing.
I have got to get eviler. Oh no.
Eviler.
Right now. Well, I want more eyes, first of all.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
I
real.
just want to draw more of me with just like many eyes. I think it's very fun. This like I don't know. This is just very genderful to me.
Mm.
I mean, I already said this one, but like it's very genderful to me. I think I can have as many eyes as you can imagine.
Mm.
I think I'm
Yeah.
allowed to have those.
You gotta be able to. You gotta see everything.
There was a shrimp in there, by the way.
You know what I realized actually?
Oh, there was
My
a shrimp.
Sona.
Yeah.
There's a shrimp. Oh hell yeah! I realized my Sona, my current Sona, is the exact
Where you want your
opposite
shrimp?
of Miki.
And it's so epic.
I have no mouth and all eyes.
I love that. I think it's funny.
Yeah.
The dichotomy.
There are two genders, me and Miki. It's eyes or mouth.
True.
Where do you want your shrimp? Where do you
It's
want your
all
shrimp?
consuming mouth or all seeing eyes.
I'm just spinning the shrimp on the screen until somebody's.
Oh, it's rotating.
Who did the
Yeah.
shrimp?
I was
I was
professional
watching.
watcher, I think. Yeah.
Give it to Maya. Okay.
Yippee!
I'll give
Oh, I
it.
put on the necklace. I put
Oh,
on the full
yeah. Hold on. I'm
Yeah.
about to do some tiny image work.
necklace.
Tiny image work.
You can
Oh,
do
it's
it,
gotta
I
be
believe in
smaller.
you.
It's gotta be much
It
smaller.
can be large. It's okay.
No, I'm trying to replace the already curly Q
Oh.
thing on the necklace.
Yeah.
And that works. Yeah, that
Oh,
works.
what's it called? I know what it's called, but I forgot what it's called.
Yeah, for Gore with the
Gintama.
Magatama?
symbol.
Yeah.
Also, chat, if you hear me clear my throat a lot, I don't know why. I'm like, phlegmy.
It do be like that,
I
gamer.
put diseases in you.
No!
I helped.
See, the devil, both of you.
No, it builds character.
Yeah. We need you to go on your character building arc.
You gotta go on your hero's journey.
You're gonna make me
Exactly.
sick and go on a hero's journey? No!
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
how it works. The
I don't
hero's
wanna go on
journey
a
is you
hero's
recovering from your sickness.
Exactly.
From the diseases we put in you.
Yeah.
Then you're going with me. Jesus.
Nuh-uh.
Nah.
I'm kidding.
No!
We need to play the
Fiery.
game. We need to play the game.
I'll be playing the game.
Fiery. Fiery, they didn't give me cancer.
No,
You can't
just
joke
like-
about that. I did have a tumor.
Oh.
No, I'm
Oh,
kidding.
yeah.
You can joke
No.
about it. No, you're totally fine. It was not cancer.
No, it's just like we're giving you sore throat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Canker
No, it's not.
sores.
It's not
Very
sore.
easy
It's just
to-
like full. Let me.
We're hitting you with the phlegm disease.
the phlegm disease.
I was gonna make a
We're hitting
different
you with
joke, and then I
flu.
realized I would have wanted to kill myself if I made that.
You
Oh.
can make the joke. I think it'd be very funny and awesome.
No, I'm good.
I think you should say I think you should say it.
I don't-
think,
I didn't
the
really
public
want-
humiliation would be worth it.
I didn't really want there to be an audio recording of me saying Hawk Tua.
There is
Why?
now. Oh, there is
There'll be
now.
yeah, audio recordings in
Yeah,
the
I
near
have-
future, I predict.
I have
Smile.
no. I have no say now. But
Yeah, it's too late. You've already done it.
okay, let's just
You guys fishing so much. Oh my god.
There's
we
so
can play
much
a video
fishing.
game.
a million fishings.
I'm shaking my head.
I'm only matching at this point.
I'm shaking my head in
Oh yeah, we gotta do a
That's
check-in
fair.
at what the number
But we
is.
need to play the video game. It's been like 30 minutes.
Yeah, we've just been yapping.
Miki
too much
is
of
at
a-
We're
27.
starting soon.
Fiery is at 25. Aya is at 7.
Yeah, because I haven't done any yet in
That's
a while.
fair. I think
And
that's
then
fair.
we have one more fish to catch, so good luck, guys.
Hmm.
At least it's not like
Yeah.
last time where there was 200.
Yeah, it was
200
well,
of
it
the
was the last
queue.
stream because it was a Minecraft stream. It's fine.
Yeah, it
Mhm.
was fine. Okay, October 18th. Whew, what a day.
This is no time for relaxing, Nick. Say, you think WP's got a chance?
I guess it really depends on the people we found out about in today's trial.
The director and producer?
Yeah, them.
Well, what are we doing here then? Let's get to the studios.
She's just gonna stare at me like this until
Let's
I
go, Nick.
Come on.
You
Let's go
have
to the
to. We
studio.
have to go to the studios,
Aw.
Nick.
He's like a
Nick,
wandering eye
I'm
around
going
the
to push you out of the window so we can go to the studios faster. I will continue
They will
staring
witness
at
a
you.
second murder from this office.
Do you want that to occur?
That no one
He
will
just
be able to
starts
defend
looking
you 'cause
around
you'll
like,
be dead.
oh. And then he like asks her what we're doing again. Literally 2 seconds
my
after she
God.
said so.
Ugh.
No one's here. No one will know.
Right, now that they have Miss
Oh my
Oldbag in
God.
custody.
Oh, thank God, I don't have to voice her.
I guess they don't have anyone else to replace her.
Hey, in the card station. Look, she left her donuts.
How old have they been? How long have they been there? They're probably really old.
Like,
Don't
like
eat
a
them.
day old.
It's 2
Don't-
days. If it's a day old, it's fine.
Do not eat them. I swear to God.
It's only been
Oh.
a day.
What was that noise? Oh. Oh my.
A crown.
A 2-minute ad break has started.
And there's also a crown.
Yes,
Crown.
yes.
Done.
I see. I'm sorry. I haven't. What do you mean? Look what you've done.
You've
Look
done
what
it.
you've done.
Look what you've done with your eyes that you have.
It's weird that it's doing a bunch of 2-minute ads. I'm pretty sure I changed my settings. Sorry, guys. I'll change my ad settings after this. But to be fair, it's definitely better than the their their recommended setting is like a full minute ad break like every 5 minutes, and I did not want that.
That's bad.
That's like egregious.
That is egregious.
Yeah, I'll have to look. Actually, that might not be the max one. I think that was the recommended. Their max one is really insane. Like, if I really wanted to get all that sweet ad revenue, this would
my
be
God.
unwatchable.
Yeah.
It's like Crunchyroll levels of ads.
Oh my God.
My God.
It really would be.
Where you watch 5 minutes and then suddenly there's 5 minutes worth of ads.
Whoa, 3-star skateboard. Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
The fish are still
Okay.
going.
I'm on pause for
Yeah, I think there was
finishing
17 of them.
Oh
I
my
stopped.
God.
What? I wasn't gonna eat them.
That look on your face tells me something otherwise.
No.
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 Oh, we're looking
Go
for
on.
director and stuff, right?
Yeah, in the studios.
Yeah.
So you know what, Ensign?
Hey, Nick. It looks like Detective Gumshoe isn't here today. Oh, thank God.
Thank God. You're right. He's probably up to his neck in paperwork after the commotion of today's trial.
So, Nick. Remember that Studio 2 we heard about at the trial today? It was down that path with the fallen tree, right?
Yeah, I think that's what they said.
Maybe the director and the rest of them are there today. Now's our chance, Nick. Let's check it out.
Alright. Studio 2.
Studio. Ooh.
Ooh-doo.
Ooh. This is Studio 2?
I thought so.
It really doesn't look much like a studio, does it?
No, that it does not.
Hey, there's a trailer over there.
Looks pretty sturdy for a movie set trailer.
Are we sure this is a studio?
Yeah, does somebody actually live here?
Maybe. I mean, that's a cabin.
There's a big 2 painted here.
No shit. Probably because this is Studio 2.
Probably. Though it doesn't look anything like a studio. Oh, okay, you don't say.
We just said that? Question mark?
Looks like 2 people in here.
Except I'm panned a little awkwardly to the right, so I can't see it at the table.
There's nothing left on the plates.
Hey, so they ate T-bone steaks too.
How do you know that?
I can tell.
What is it with steaks around here? And how could you tell when they're completely empty plates?
Hey, there's always room for steak.
Okay.
But something does seem out of place.
What?
I don't know. It just feels odd.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
These look like materials for making a movie set.
They've been sitting here for quite some time. This might as well be a junkyard.
If I remember correctly, Squid, you said you don't remember anything past this point?
Yeah,
That
no.
long?
Past that,
Okay.
like, first part of the trial, I don't remember anything.
That's fun. I remember things.
I
also
remember.
anything.
Miki doesn't remember anything because he's never played this.
No, I remember.
Liar.
Trust me. I know things.
Trust
Trust.
Miki.
I
I'm
remember.
Mickey.
On closer inspection, this trailer looks like it's been here for a while. I don't think this is part of some temporary film set. There's some flowers here.
Wow, so pretty. They're taking good care of these.
Don't get too close. That fence looks dangerous.
Too bad, so sad.
She would be the one to trip and fall into it.
Why is one of them bent?
That's why that's why I clicked on it, because I was thinking maybe it would say something.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Interesting.
Interesting.
Secret butt plug.
Nick, let's go inside.
What? This is somebody's house, obviously. We can't just go inside. You think it's okay? Phoenix!
Sorry, I'm laughing because I think what I said was unheard, and I'm like,
No, I heard it.
No, I heard the
what
secret
you
side
said.
eye.
Okay, good.
I just went
No.
for it.
He just ignored it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh well, it's locked.
it's a dangerous one, butt plug.
Aw. Let's go in.
Let's go in. Into the butt plug.
That's what I thought you were laughing at, to be honest.
No.
I guess I can only go back to Studio 1.
Back
Dang.
outside. Did you examine everything in there? You
Yeah.
only looked to the right.
It wouldn't let me. Hold
Well,
on.
I mean, like, get back in there. Go back in there. You pan to the right. You can pan to the left. See, you can examine.
But I
Stop slide. Don't
No,
slide. Examine. I want you to look at things.
That's what I was It wouldn't. Okay, to be fair.
There's a button on the bottom that says slide.
What? Oh. I didn't look at the. I didn't look at the directions because
Heads
usually
up,
these are exactly
You
the
can turn your head.
You can shimmy.
You
Okay.
can turn your head.
Oh god, the bush. Oh no.
Oh my god.
I'm gonna
You're
make
making
you
me
sick
sick.
after
I'm
because
gonna
of that.
sick. I'm gonna be sick. Oh, yeah, because that's what you clicked when you were awkwardly facing the other way.
Oh,
The table.
I was like, yeah, that's
Yeah.
weird. Yeah.
I
I
can't
didn't
really
think
see it, but
anything
that's
of
weird.
An incinerator. Apparently, they just put this one in. Convenience.
Convenient.
It's already covered in soot. They must not clean it much, or they just used it. Bum, bum, bum.
Exactly.
Almost Christmas
Arr.
means it wasn't Christmas. A light van for moving staff and equipment around. They've kept it in pretty good shape. Looks like it'd run fine.
Well, let's go for a drive.
Maya!
Let's go.
This is not our vehicle.
So, who cares?
Sure, if I had a license. Oh god. Everybody, I'm getting a phone call. Give me 1 second.
Have fun with your phone call. Don't let Christ compel you. I don't know what that means, but I just said it.
Don't let Christ compel you. It's because you're the demon possessing squids.
Yeah,
Just
that's right.
whatever you do, don't let it happen, because then
Don't
it'll
let-
expel me from your body.
And that will make me very upset.
It'll make me very sad.
You don't want me to be upset, do you?
Oh god.
Oh my
sillies.
god.
Oh my
Ever so
goodness.
silly. It's only been like less than 30 minutes of actual gameplay.
Yeah. I love the dinky fucking bird noises.
True.
It's just silence and then bad bird noises. It's really good. It's just and then that's it. That's silence. The low quality bird noises.
We love low quality. I mean that too,
Oh my
maybe.
god, the sound waves have polygons.
Oh my god, the sounds, the polygons.
They have shape. They've been
They
given
have
shape.
so many shapes. That's crazy.
And they're low poly.
Oh my! I don't even know if they can hear us. Squid might have muted us, to be honest. Now that I think
Squid's
about it,
having a phone call.
that's true.
I think. I mean, of course, it seems like we're just right here. No, they can hear us. Fiery says these ain't no POPO.
Okay.
Sure? I think they're pretty. It's pretty POPO core.
You can't prove they're POPO. Well,
yeah, you'll never know.
You'll never know.
I think I'm imagining you guys talking. I mean, I mean that's fair enough.
Yeah, that's fair. Because to be fair, Squid has muted us in the past.
Yeah, well, it's because we say stupid things.
That's true.
Yeah. I mean, probably for good reason.
That is true.
The things that, like, when it's just us and, like, Squid's gone, we do just go on, like, crazy tangents that just get more and more incomprehensible.
And by the time Squid's, like, back, it's like, what the fuck?
Like, what are you talking about? And we're like, well, we went on a little spiritual journey together.
It happens. It's the normal course of action that occurs.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
You know what I'm thinking about?
Hmm.
I was remembering that quote that's like, hold on, I have it written down because I was remembering, like, us. It was like a conversation between the three of us that I thought was so goofy that I had to write it down.
That's so epic.
Hold on, I have it here somewhere. Where is it? Oh, here it is. It says, Miki, you say, I know where you can find noodles. And it was like ominous. And Squid's like, what does that sound? What is that? And then I said, why am I scared? It sounded ominous. And then Miki goes, it's because I was going to end that sentence with his intestines, smiley face. And Squid's like, my intestines? And I'm like, he can't eat his own intestines. And then Miki's like, it's fine. They'll grow back.
Yeah, they will.
That was, I thought it was funny and important, so I wrote it down.
It is important. That's critical Miki lore.
It's important Miki lore.
Exactly. The Miki lore can be lost so easily.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because it just expands upon the Miki universe. In Miki universe, from Miki logic, your intestines can grow back and will grow back.
They will. You don't get a choice, actually.
They will grow back.
They will grow back.
Even if you were like, actually, I don't want my intestines, I don't know why you would want that, but like, if you wanted it to be like, actually, I'm gonna remove my intestines because I don't want them, but they will grow back whether you want to get rid of them or not.
You do not have a choice.
Back. They'll come back.
Exactly.
Yeah. God, this is what I mean. It's bad.
It is so bad, but it's so epic.
The things I say are not for anyone.
They're for us.
Miku, who the Hatsune Miku?
Hatsune Miku is in the stream right now. Holy shit!
Oh, where's Hatsune Miku?
Where is Hatsune Miku?
Oh my god.
It's crazy.
We gotta find her.
We need to find her and save her.
Save her.
Let's just save her in general.
Yeah, save her.
Yeah.
I'm nodding.
Nodding.
Oh man, you know. Never mind, I forgot what I was. Oh, game that we need Squid to stream specifically because we can also play it is what is it? King of the Castle.
Oh yeah, I've heard of it.
We just because it has Twitch integration. So we can like be goofy and be in there, and we can read the character dialogue. It's very fun.
That would be fun.
I think it'd be fun.
Yeah, it's like one of the off streams.
Yeah, and I think it's very much like a one-shot stream thing. We play a run. Because I think it'd be funny to mess with Squid and his rulering, his monarchy.
That's true.
But yeah. You don't need to have the game to have like character customized.
That's fine.
But like otherwise it'll just like take your username or whatever. Specifically from Twitch, it'll take your Twitch name if it's Twitch integrated, but I don't know, I think it'd be funny. Miki with Miku hair. The Miki Miku.
Miki Miku.
What about like a Mickey Mouse?
Oh my god. Mickey,
it's just Mickey Mouse, but there's like no eyes.
Just no eyes in general, and maybe some hair.
Yeah, the Mickey hair.
The Mickey hair.
I'm nodding. It really... I'm just thinking about it. It really does just feel like Squid and the two eldritch entities that he hangs out with.
That's completely normal.
The two very different eldritch entities that hang out with him.
Not one, but two have decided to be like, yeah, this one.
This one's funny.
This one's funny.
Cool.
It's so epic.
This one's quite enjoyable, I must say.
Enjoyable entity.
An enjoyable little creature for us to bully.
Yeah.
That's just how it is. I have got to draw more eyeballs. There's just so much fun for me to draw.
Can't relate.
Can't relate, yeah.
I'm sorry, but I can't relate.
No, it's okay. It's my brand anyway.
My brand is not your brand, as I am the opposite of your brand.
You are the opposite of my brand. You lack eyes entirely. In its entirety. I mean, oh my god, words. Words are hard.
Words are hard. I agree.
Words are hard. I'm a hater.
So hard.
I'm kind of a hater of words. I think we
everyone
should just like stare at each other and communicate telepathically.
Stop talking forever.
Let's all stop using words.
Let's just communicate with like
you can only stare at each other, give each other vibes. Yeah, brainwaves. You have to communicate via brainwaves and vibes, and also maybe gestures if you're feeling quirky enough.
Yeah, maybe do a little dance if you're feeling real quirky.
A little interpretive dance.
Yeah.
For us to interpret.
Exactly.
Yeah. Simply, yeah. I've got to start drawing more. I feel like I've been kind of art blocked lately.
I've been going crazy back into art.
Oh, you took all my art energy.
I'm sorry, I took it for the Yuri. I needed to draw Yuri.
You know, actually, that's valid. You need the Yuri energy.
You
need to draw Yuri.
I live.
Hello.
Hi, sorry.
We were yapping for quite a bit.
You're gonna see it in the VOD. It's just nonstop stupid.
That's fine.
That's awesome.
My MRI place called me for some reason at almost 7 p.m. I thought they closed at 5, so I don't know why they were. But
interesting.
Oh, you guys probably don't know. So I was supposed to have an MRI like a month ago, and they just kept saying that my insurance was not authorizing it. And then we got so fed up with it, my dad finally called our representative, and they were like, "Oh, it's been authorized since the beginning of the month."
What the fuck?
So then I was like, okay, so we've resolved that. And then I go finally to get the MRI. I'm in the office. And then the guy who's doing the MRI comes out. And then he's like, so our MRI machine just broke. I'm like, oh my God.
You have got to
You've
be
gotta
kidding me.
be
That
kidding
sucks.
me. I literally was like crashing out in the car.
I don't
Wild.
blame you.
I was like
'cause what the fuck?
screaming. I was like, this is
Oh.
bullshit. And then I've been waiting for like a week for this new radiology place to finally call me. Oh my God. And then it calls me here at night. So I'm hopefully going tomorrow.
Good luck,
If-
gamer.
If I get there tomorrow and something is wrong, I'm gonna give up. I'm gonna just chop off my leg. I'm not gonna get it scanned. I'm just gonna get rid of it.
No. Don't do that.
It's all I can do right now. If it's
no,
broken,
no.
if something's wrong, I will freak out.
Simply do not.
Let's
don't.
sue.
Don't do it.
I will sue.
You should, honestly. Because what the
No,
fuck?
no, it's fine. I'm normal. Okay. If I had a license.
If you had a driver's license.
Nick, you don't have a driver's license? That's crazy.
But look, I have this. Oh,
That
Phoenix.
doesn't. What is that?
That doesn't let you drive, bud.
This is lawyer badge.
Why are you showing me your attorney's badge, Nick?
It's shiny.
Don't eat it.
That's something I should say to you.
Hey,
Forbidden candy.
forbidden candy.
Forbidden candy. Dirt. Wall.
Tree.
Trees. Sky. Food. There's nothing else
I
here.
spy.
I
Yeah.
spy for real.
Unless you want to look at that door, but I don't think you can.
No,
The
I already
garage door.
tried.
Right. Well, guess we gotta get moving.
Gotta get
Let's
you
take a
moving.
looky around.
Yeah.
Do deal one.
I don't really want to be here.
What is it? Is it
Deal
the
one.
outline of the dead body on the floor?
No, I
Surely
just really
not.
hate cameras. They make me uncomfortable.
Yeah, it is a murder scene.
That
Powder sugar
drawing-
candy,
that's-
loose dirt. What?
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 What? Watch her.
I like fully lost track of the bit I was gonna say. I like
know
it's
what just
gone. It
happened.
fucking went away.
I don't even know what just happened there.
I
had
know.
a
I was
bit
reading
gonna
what Watcher
say,
sent in
but
chat. I was like,
gone.
dirt? Okay.
I want to go someplace else, Nick. Oh, Nick?
I
Fine.
remember now.
Yeah.
But it's not funny anymore.
Why
Oh,
not?
man. It
Because
can
it's
still
like,
be
I
funny.
don't want to be here, and you're like, why is it the dead body? And I was like, the way they painted the set makes me disgusted. I need to leave.
I just
Something
gotta
like
go.
stupid. That that prop is
Anything
putrid.
else? Anything else? Big mountain.
That's Fuji.
That's Fuji.
Looks like a backdrop for a stage. This must be used in the Steel Samurai show. I think we've seen these once.
Yeah, Neo Fujiyama, of course.
Of course.
That's the mountain, Neo Fujiyama.
Of
Yeah.
course. Who
Of
would
course.
who would have known that? Doesn't the Steel Samurai take place in old Tokyo? Can you even see Mount Fuji from there?
Not
Come
old
on.
Tokyo, Nick. Neo old Tokyo. Get
Yeah,
with the
So-
program, old man.
Neo
Wait,
old
but
Tokyo.
you still can't see it from there.
Says
Okay.
who?
Says who? Says
It's totally
who?
Tokyo. Shush.
Oh god, I'm leaving.
It's the Steel Samurai universe. You can see Fujiyama, Neo old Fujiyama from anywhere.
Where am I? What am I doing now? Oh,
Go to the
employer.
employer.
I was like, this is useless. This is nothing.
I will say.
Oh,
I'm sorry. I was gonna say. I will say the silence and the bird chirping is making me go crazy.
we gotta
Okay,
get.
go ahead. Go ahead.
We can't be outside anymore. Look, it's that assistant girl. Hey,
Oh, you're both of these.
Oh,
people.
thank God, music.
Hi, WP's lawyers, right?
He's got like a Tamagotchi.
I heard about the trial. Great job, guys.
Isn't that?
She's got like.
I think that's like a timer, isn't it?
Oh, probably.
I thought it was like a funky badge for like passing.
I think it's a timer. It might be like a stopwatch thing.
Oh, maybe. That makes
very
sense.
Tamagotchi-esque.
Oh? Oh, don't mention it.
It's like, yeah, I'm pretty cool.
I'm pretty epic.
Is it true they caught the security lady?
You look a little too happy about her getting caught.
Being caught. Wouldn't you?
Phoenix,
I know,
good?
but I have my suspicions about this girl. Huh? Oh,
This thing is dialogue. Actually, she just called me.
From jail.
From jail.
She told me to cover up that drain.
The one covered in duct tape.
You mean that one?
Yeah.
I like how they show us behind. Wow, what a mess.
See it.
I know. I'm not so good with handiwork. Some assistant, right? Yeah, but you do work on the props and the backdrops, right? Right. Just lots of times they end up looking worse than they did before I fixed them.
Oh, you should have been fired, girl. Anyways.
I'm literally an intern and I am unpaid.
Also, they're like so understaffed here.
Yeah.
Look at this place.
Oh? Oh. Well, I'm sure these things happen. Nothing to worry yourself about.
All you gotta worry about is, are you forklift certified? I see that back there.
You're right. I won't.
Personally, I think she should worry at least a little bit more.
No.
Squid is Phoenix, right?
If you'll excuse me, I have to go to the guard station.
Squid sees the forklift while I see the ladder.
There are two types of gay people.
I'm supposed to fill in for Miss Oldbag.
You? Girl, you should have been out there like an hour ago. I've been wandering around here all willy-nilly. I've been gallivanting.
Yeah.
Gallivanting.
Right. See you later then. Good luck with your investigation.
You okay?
Well,
With cardboard. Girl,
Yeah.
that's not gonna do anything.
So the fanboy they were talking about in the trial today,
Child.
he came in through that drain?
So it seems. Guess they covered it up in a hurry.
Hey, Nick.
Button? Okay.
If that drain's covered, the boy won't be able to get in.
Yeah. I think that was the idea.
I feel kind of sorry for him, though. Don't you?
that's the
What?
face of
You
a
want to rip the
schemer.
grate off? Yeah, she's scheming right now.
Really, Nick? We can?
But I did not say anything like that. Was she serious? Uh-oh.
I think
Rip it open. You should. You should do
it'd
it.
be awesome.
Well, I guess some things are just made to be broken.
Yay!
Yeah,
You
like
know,
your
Nick.
back.
Yeah.
Kicking it.
The second you bend over to remove it, I'm gonna
No!
stick your back in.
No! My back.
You know, Nick, you're pretty swell sometimes.
You guys. Oh my
It's like
god.
the swell that's
Maya.
gonna happen on your face when I punch it so hard it bruises.
Maya!
Hey!
She's
No,
so
I'm sorry.
mean to me. She's
I'm
so
sorry,
mean
I'm
to
sorry.
me. Sometimes.
Sometimes you're not an annoying little piece of shit. Being mean to Phoenix. Being mean to Phoenix.
Being mean to
Phoenix.
Phoenix and then saying that I'm just like Phoenix.
No,
Chat.
that's different.
No, that's
Chat, they're
different.
bullying
That's
me.
different.
It's
No, I just
different.
meant
Chat,
you
they're
say something
bullying
and then
me.
Phoenix says it like 2 seconds later.
Yeah!
Oh my god.
Wow.
Oh no, she's doing it.
There. That should make the kids happy.
Why are you letting
So-
children become criminals?
For fun.
The things we
Fun.
do.
As a treat.
As a tweet.
The drain grate is off. And
Yeah.
I know who did it.
Now the kids will be able to come in again.
Why do you want the children to trespass so
That'd be
badly?
funny.
Smile. Doesn't it make you feel great to do a good deed like that?
Let them have sewer fun. Yeah, also these kids are like gonna contract a disease or something.
That's true. Actually, they might contract a disease in the
They're
bed.
crawling through the grate like a dog.
Must be nice to live so free of guilt.
Yeah, she's innocent.
Forklift. Oh, forklift.
You may not look at the forklift.
That must be the storage room. That's where they keep all the film equipment.
Wow, Nick. You know a lot about the industry.
What else would they keep in a film studio?
Bodies.
I mean, technically, yeah. Very briefly, they did.
In
bones.
general.
Oh, look,
Fake
the
ones,
tea and
real
fucking
ones.
steak.
The remains of the other day's lunch are scattered around. Do people not clean up here? Jesus.
Yeah, they have like 5 people that work here.
Yeah.
Everyone was probably too shocked to clean up. Thank you, Phoenix. There's a T-bone on one of the plates, minus the steak. See, but that's what confused me too. Because they were talking about how they ate T-bones at the other place, but those plates were completely empty. So did they eat the bones?
Could have given it to a dog.
I wonder how they disposed of the bones.
Oh, incinerator.
Oh, yeah.
That was right there.
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
That's fair. That makes
They ate
sense. I
them.
mean, if they're right next to an incinerator, might as well fucking use it. I guess that makes sense.
I guess so. Japanifornia.
Same thing to Tokyo.
Oh, slide button.
Slide.
You can move your head.
Bike. Looks like one of those electric powered bicycles. We're not gonna steal a bike.
Why not?
I don't know about these. I mean, what's the point?
It makes it a lot easier to go up hills.
Oh. Don't people cycle to get exercise? Lazy bastards. There's a half-finished backdrop for a stage here. Looks like a castle. Probably a neo-old Tokyo castle.
Nope. Okay.
No.
Bike,
Slide.
sky, wall,
Slide.
slide,
Slide.
Slide. In there. Go.
slide to the left, slide
No,
to the right.
Slide to the right.
No.
2 hops this time.
I can't. There's no hop button.
Go.
Damn.
Oh, the vending machine.
Let's see. Cola, candy, chips, gum. Huh. It's so normal. I was expecting some. Oh, we've already seen this one.
Yeah, you've seen
I was
it.
expecting some cool Steam snacks or something. Popcorn, at least.
Shut up, Felix.
Wait, look. Samurai soda.
Yum.
Nick, try this.
I don't have any money. Be my guest.
Okay. Oh, too bad. It's sold out.
But oh, it's not one of those track ones. It's just a display on the front. Okay.
Mhm.
I was like,
Oh
but
yeah,
isn't it
Japanese
in
vending
there?
machine.
But
I think it's slightly different. Oh, well, in you go.
window.
Wonder.
A window into the dressing room. The glass is frosted, so I can't see inside. Can't see anybody's
Pressing
naked
your
butt.
face. I would hope so.
The door to the dressing room is not locked.
Hey, Nick, let's go in. Maybe there'll be something else to steal?
My
Please?
hey, we're not thieves.
Says you. But we did take that card key.
But it doesn't mean you want to steal more. We borrowed that. That's a difference.
No.
No.
Well, go
No.
ahead.
Oh.
No.
Move.
No.
Dressing room. Yes. Oh boy. Okay. Mm.
This is where the Steel Samurai costume was on the day of the murder.
Why is it so silent?
I have no
Okay.
clue.
That's what Mr. Powers says, at least. I guess they snuck in and took it while he was sleeping.
But, Nick, what if Mr. Powers hadn't been sleeping?
But we already established that he had been.
I wonder what the killer was planning on doing then.
Killing? Oh, you're talking in a hypothetical scene. Okay. Huh. She's got a point. Oh, finally.
Music.
Music. No.
Don't move. Don't leave.
Move. Don't.
You
No.
just got
Don't.
here.
I pressed the wrong thing. Winder.
Winder.
It's locked. I guess he doesn't open his window much. It is kind of dusty outside. Looks like someone was sleeping here.
I wonder who.
Maybe Powers did take a nap here, like you said.
What if he didn't want to sleep there? What if he wanted to sleep on the table?
Under the table.
Or on it? I don't know. What if he slept in the coat rack?
There's some regular suits in among the costumes here.
Like stood up.
Yeah.
It's abs like
A horse.
He's hung in the rack.
He's like a horse.
He's like held up.
That's
like a horse.
Mr. Powers' personal clothes.
Fucking like tied up to it like a horse.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of snacks on the table. They must give these
Sorry
to the
guys, I need to
employees.
stable my will powers.
Cookies.
I don't know why it's so funny to share.
Wait, Nick!
No, you can't eat them. What now?
These snacks. They've passed the expiration dates.
Gasp. Then don't eat them.
They're snacks. They're meant to be eaten.
Yeah, but they're not for you. You don't work here.
Who says I don't?
I do, because you don't have a job other than you barely work here with me.
You have no proof that I don't have a job here. Where is your proof that I do not work here right
And
now?
where's your W-2?
Right here!
And where's your W-2?
I'm holding it in front of your face!
It's like drawn in crayon. It's just a paper that says W-2 on it in crayon.
It's like one word, like somehow she phonetically spells the letter W.
W-2. Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's what she thinks it means.
No, it's a picture of the band U2 twice on a piece of paper.
Oh my god.
It's double U2.
W-2. Anyways.
Two screenshots of her YouTube homepage.
Mr. Powers' bag. I wonder what's inside.
Didn't you already rummage through this?
I think you may have.
Supermarket tabloids? Wow, I'm kind of shocked.
Oh, this is different. Maya, leave this alone. Wolfmen found on Mars? I'll have to buy that issue. What? Phoenix.
Hey, yo.
Phoenix!
Hey, yo.
Phoenix. It's a good thing that was an inside thought.
There you go.
There's an array of cosmetics here. According to Maya, that wig was used in some old TV show.
Samurai Boogie Woogie. Nick, get with the picture.
How can you read my thoughts right now?
Get with it.
Look, explain to me how you can identify a show just by seeing a wig.
I am kind of like samurai movies.
Wow, I couldn't tell. Kinda. Anything.
Oh.
They always have mirrors like this in dressing rooms.
Yeah.
I wonder
You
why.
see, my hair is still nice and spiky, just how I like it.
It's a choice.
It's a
Yeah.
choice.
It's a choice. He's styling it like that.
Uh-huh,
He's
interesting.
naturally like that. He styles it to be spiky.
Interesting.
Wow, looks like you gotta leave.
Thank you.
Oh,
I was just...
we were waiting for the child, probably.
Oh, ill child.
A child.
Well, I guess he'll move back to other areas.
The child will show up, presumably.
Where's
She'll
the
show up,
shadows?
just like how Miki will show up.
I'll show up.
I'll show up.
Yeah.
Ah,
Oh, hello. Oh, you look a little out of place.
don't call her that, Maya. What the heck?
It's the clothes, isn't it? I thought my camo vest might do the trick.
That's camouflage? Okay.
Yeah, you can't see it.
Because it's camo.
Oh. I kind of walked into that one.
Kind of an alternative guard fashion thing.
You got there.
Thank you.
Yay! The studios. So, how are the studios doing?
There's police wandering around everywhere. It's terrible.
Except you won't see them.
They won't even let me clean up. Don't want me disturbing evidence. I haven't even cleaned up our lunch plates from the day of the murder.
Oh, okay. You mean those plates with the steak bones left over on them in the employee area?
Yeah, can you believe it?
I guess so. It is Gumshoe. He's probably over there licking the plates right now.
Do kids sneak in here a lot?
And chewing on the bones.
Well, I don't think that there's that many of them, but I do see one in particular a bunch. He's always gawking at the sets or snapping pictures. You should see if old Windbag's eyes flash when he you should see old Windbag's eyes flash when she sees them. She has a bit of trouble catching him, though.
The director et al.
Et al.
I heard something at the trial today. They said that the director and producer were here the day of the murder.
Oh, sorry. I was in the prop storage room, so I didn't see them. I guess they were here, though. The studio head seemed pretty eager to keep us quiet. So they were trying to protect the director. More the producer, really. The producer's our real star here. She saved these studios from the brink of disaster and kept them running. I don't think we'd still be in business if it weren't for the producer.
The producer, huh? Okay, see you later. Let's try to catch a child.
Nope.
Still nothing.
Hmm.
I mean, Old Bag's in the detention center. I guess.
Yeah,
you
if
could
we yap
probably
at
talk
the
to
old
her.
lady. Oh,
Oh.
well, no, it's still him.
No, not Old Bag. Okay.
I guess we'll talk to him, I guess.
Still Aya, though,
Oh,
regardless.
thankfully. Oh, Mr. Wright, thank you for earlier.
Not at all. We got lucky, to tell the truth.
I was drinking water. You can say that again.
Maya jump scare.
I thought I had my break.
Let's not.
So, WP. Do you have any leads that might get us going in the right direction?
So sorry, but no.
Be sure to tell us anything that comes to mind, no matter how small.
We can't rely on getting lucky again tomorrow.
Yes, sniff.
Sniff,
Sniff.
sniff.
The fanboy.
He whimper.
Do fanboys sneak into the studio often?
No, not that I know of. That security lady's pretty strict with them.
But in today's testimony, didn't she say they were often hanging around?
The kids really, really love the Steel Samurai. They sneak past when she's not looking, I guess.
Was the director present at the morning run-through?
Yes, he was. He was directing how the Steel Samurai and the evil magistrate should move. You know, like how a director does.
Why didn't you tell us that before?
Well, the studio asked us to keep quiet even though I'm being accused of murder.
Even though my life is literally on the line.
But I listened anyway.
Womp.
Womp womp.
That has nothing to do with this. I hate to repeat myself, but Nick here is a newbie lawyer, fresh off the bar.
Oh, what about you? You're not even a lawyer.
Yes, I am.
I don't even want to hear it right now.
Here's my proof.
Objection!
Objection!
Just saying objection does not make you a lawyer.
Yes, it does.
Slap
That's what
in
my
the face.
sister always told me.
Objection!
Yeah.
When he loses, he's going to lose big.
Hey, when?
I see. Sniff.
Sneeze, sneeze.
Sniff.
Whose side is she on?
You aren't hiding anything else from us, are you?
No, I sure hope not. I
Hope?
sure hope not.
Hope.
I'm just a little guy.
You're just a little guy.
Maybe the child.
Hello.
Hey, you should go
Child.
to the dressing room.
I was gonna say, like, maybe in the dressing room, this supposed child that occurs.
Oh.
WTF? Who are you dudes? Lamau?
What?
What?
I think we should leave, actually. I think we should turn around and leave now.
Let's leave. Let's just leave.
I'm gonna have to
Let's
leave
Let's just
this.
go,
Fuck,
actually.
Okay.
Oh!
Fuck. Oh.
A man!
Huh? Wait, you first. Who are you? You look pretty suspicious to me.
Finally music, but I need this man to go away.
Whatever, lamers.
Lamers?
How can you not know the great salmonella?
Yeah, you look like you have salmonella.
I was.
He's sweating so much. I'm making the elite shows. The Steel Samurai Mine. RTFC. Read the film credits.
Oh,
The parentheses.
The parent.
so this is the producer?
The director.
Oh, this is the
Ah.
director?
I think. Maybe.
You're someone.
Well,
He's
well, he'll
employed?
probably tell us. He'll probably tell us. Go ahead.
Really? You're the salmonella. I'm so sorry. You look so sorry.
You look like you look really sweaty.
You're
Like
very
incredibly
sweaty.
sweaty. And why are you grimacing?
And why are you
Stop
wearing a turtleneck?
grimacing.
It's 1,000
Why-
degrees outside.
Is turtleneck the towel for his sweat? Why is he
Why-
sweaty?
Why are you wearing a turtleneck rolled up like that? What the hell?
It's
Ugh.
fashion. No, quite alright. Really, it's fine. Ruffle. I don't know if I want to do like a really overly normal like voice. Would it be
He's saying
funnier?
so normal.
Just
He sounds so
incredibly
really,
normal.
like upsettingly normal.
Like
Okay,
deadpan normal.
yeah. Okay, I'll do that. Mickey?
What is it? What is it? Oh, something happened to my stream there. Okay.
Oh no. You know, on closer inspection. Oh no. Yeah, hot, slobber.
I don't
The child?
like him.
I'm a
The
hater.
I
child?
don't like him. I hate him, actually.
Oh no. She's 17, girl.
The
I
child?
don't approve.
The child?
The fucking AI generated ass voice. Hey, do you do a lot of cosplay? Cause that costume I don't
Rock
I'm not-
stores?
Oh, I
Ugh.
don't know. Like it rocks.
Rock stores? What? Hey, you're drooling!
This guy sucks. I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to be here.
I don't want to be here anymore.
I'm just gonna skip these ones. I don't like this.
Lol. You've triggered my creative powers.
Is
God.
your creative powers the gigantic boner in your pants right now? Jesus.
Don't say
Chop it
those
off.
things, Squid.
You can chop it off.
Yes, it's coming to me. Pink Princess.
What?
What?
Ting. The sequel to the Steel Samurai, Pink Princess, Warrior of Little Old Tokyo. Like this. Raffle, Lamau.
The robot boobs?
Fine, I guess.
The robot
robo
boobs?
The robot.
That's so
boob.
funny. She's kind of awesome.
Pink Princess?
Why is it gonna be Little Old Tokyo? Why can't it have a cool name like Neo Old Tokyo?
Maya, we really need to talk about cool. I don't want to
Okay.
talk to this
Now
guy.
you have to talk to this guy.
You
I
have
don't
to.
want to.
Oh god.
I don't want to.
I have to
Is this-
recite slang that I don't know.
Is this why your memory was wiped past like whatever part we were
Maybe.
at earlier?
Maybe it was
Squid? Was this why
trauma.
your memory was wiped?
Maybe it was trauma.
It might have been trauma, gamer.
Did you notice anything unusual on the day of the murder? And please do not,
I'm doing the text-to-speech voice. It makes it bearable.
do
Yeah.
not look at my coworker.
My child,
take
my
your-
daughter.
Don't take your tongue out, please.
That was
If you
a
put your
bad
tongue out, I'm
animation.
skipping
It's
your
bad.
It's
your
not good.
lines.
Oh, I know who you dudes are. That security lady told you about us, eh?
Eh?
That's right.
It was a pretty irregular day. We had a run through for an action scene in the morning. Then, a meeting from lunchtime in the Studio 2 trailer. Sorry, the Studio 2 trailer. I was so busy, I didn't even get a chance to eat lunch. Sad face.
At least.
A T-bone steak, was it?
Yes.
The
Yeah, dinosaurs. I hate missing out on food.
so
Nick, what does suxors mean?
Maya, we'll talk about this later. We have to
Okay.
get away from this guy.
That's fair.
No idea.
Oh no. Anyway, I was in a meeting from noon till after 4 o'clock with the producer and some bigwigs from the network.
They let you talk to people in public, in person.
In public?
I
They
think
they let you out
do
of
you
the house.
mean?
They let you-
this may be rude to say, but you seem like bad PR.
yeah,
Because he's a little bit freaky.
you see.
Yeah.
He's
Anyways.
sweating so much. Like, is he cold or is he hot? I can't tell.
Mr.
Like, are
Hammer's
you-
time
are
of
you
death was
sweating?
estimated at 2:30.
He drew those on.
Yeah, they're like they're like hot blue
What?
dots that he just like put on
Oh
his
my
face.
God.
God.
He's actually just like perfectly. That's why he's grimacing.
Because he glued his face.
He's like, oh no.
Mr. Hammer's time of death was estimated at 2:30. If he's telling the truth, that meaning gives him an alibi. I don't want
Oh,
to talk to him
God.
anymore. The producer. About the producer who was at the meeting with you.
Is one of these characters that fucking date.
Oh,
was
the
dated,
fact that
like,
the producer is a woman makes me concerned about the things that he will
Mhm.
say about her.
shrugging emoji.
I don't want
Oh,
to hear
you mean
anything he has
Dee
to say about
Vasquez.
these.
Oh no, I think I'm alright with Dee Vasquez being a little bit. She's kind of.
No, I know,
Anyways.
but I don't want to hear what this guy has to say about her.
No, the vibes.
She's a genius. Mad skills all the way. Scary though, sweats.
Oh, good. You're afraid of her. I'm not.
She brought these studios back from the brink of destruction. It's like going into like a narrator voice.
It's
She's
the
the
only
one who made
way.
it possible for me to make the Steel Samurai. Last
can-
time on Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
You had a meeting with her on the day of the murder, right?
Yeah, we were together from noon to 4 p.m. the whole time.
Okay. The big wigs. Who exactly are these bigwigs people you keep mentioning?
Oh, the boss over at the network and some sponsors. Also a few production guys. So true. Why is this easier for me to voice than talking like a normal person? I just don't know how to do tone in a normal way. They piled into a limousine and got here right around noon.
That's actually crazy. I think there's a
Huh?
I think I was gonna say when you said you can't give tone, I was gonna be like, well, that's crazy. I heard there's a diagnosis for that.
Oh my god.
No, I have that diagnosis. Major tension, sweats.
Major tension.
Major tension. Oh, I can do the Umo voice for this guy.
Please don't.
Does that make you happy?
No.
I'm
that
sorry,
would
not
actually
for this guy. Not for this guy.
that would make me suffer.
Not for
Actually,
this guy.
No, okay.
Not for this guy.
This guy. Were all of them with you the entire time?
Yeah, unfortunately. They're all gray-haired geezers. Scowl.
Sounds like they'd all be reliable witnesses.
Okay,
Oh,
now you can leave.
thank God.
Unless? Unless?
Unless.
I don't remember. I might have to present something, but I forget.
Can I show him this?
I don't know.
Start showing him stuff, I guess.
Sure, why not? This is WP, right?
How do you know?
Well, look, he's obviously dragging his foot.
Oh, right. The director would know about the injury. He was there.
The samurai spear.
The samurai
Show him
spiel.
the samurai spear.
The samurai spiel.
Oh, I tried to. Oh, it doesn't matter. He doesn't have. He has no thoughts about this.
Okay, we don't need to look at this anymore. We don't need to look at this anymore.
Okay.
Why?
Stop.
I don't know. I'm not even reading that.
No.
Actually,
No. Hey, dude. Hey, we're leaving, actually.
let's just leave.
Well, back we go to the studio main gate.
I hate that guy.
How
I don't think I need to
long-
talk to you anymore. No, you're fine.
Maybe present something to her. I don't know.
I don't know. I feel like she's seen everything. No, I don't think I need.
You could. I guess you could go back to the studio too, real quick, just to peep it.
Like outside studio too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Oh my goodness.
Just as I subsected.
Susceptible.
Yeah.
This place is deserted. Oh,
Crash. Eek! Nick, wait, what was that noise?
sounded like he came. Oh, that was you.
It sounded like it came from inside the trailer.
I didn't even look.
Nick?
My bad. Someone must be
Nick.
inside.
You're good.
I think my brain was like, he turned his head. It's obviously his time to speak.
Hello?
I know this is typically a typically a Miki character, but I want to do this one.
Okay, fair enough.
Mostly
No
'cause
answer.
I haven't thought of you. I forgot to speak.
You guys got yeah, that was me last stream, so I think you get this.
Yeah, I get this. As a treat.
Pretty suspicious if you ask me, Nick.
Well, you can have her maybe during the trial segment, because I have to be.
You have to do Edgeworth, yeah.
Shrugging emoji. We'll see.
Well, we'll see how it's
You can trade
distributed.
off. Yeah.
Let's go in.
Oh, sorry.
Let's go in. Let's go in.
Let's go in.
Oh, oh, okay. I'm not sure we should be barging in. Huh. It's locked. Still.
What? Don't we have a key?
No, but there's probably one in the guard station at the main gate.
Then what are we waiting for? Let's Parkowitz.
If they'll let us.
Run.
Run.
Go now.
You need to go.
No!
She was released.
You again. Oh, it's the Skeletor. Fuck.
Yes! I love the skeleton.
No. How rude, asking like you've seen a ghost.
You
You.
certainly got back to your post quickly.
Oh, the police took me away, they did. They pulled out a spare steel samurai costume. Told me to put it on, can you imagine? How could I, a sweet little old lady, wear a giant suit like that?
Mr. Powers is pretty tall.
As soon as they saw there was no way I could wear it, they let me go.
I guess that would rule out her being the murderer.
Anyway. Know this, whippersnapper. This old lady never forgets a slight or insult. And you won't get any information out of me. My lips are sealed.
You sure are talking a lot for someone with sealed lips.
Starting now. 1, 2, 3.
This lady's too much. About that kid you said you saw.
If I see him again, I'm taking him down.
That's a child.
I'm gonna kill him.
That's a child.
Child!
I'm gonna running tackle that child.
Nick, look at her eyes. She's serious.
About the director, the one who was here on the day of the murder.
If I see him again, I'm taking him down. I'm gonna kill him.
Actually, you know what? That's okay. Nick, I think she's losing it.
I'm going to running tackle that man and kill him.
I think she should.
Good.
You know what? She gets the pass.
Oh, do you think you can examine that? Yeah.
The computer that runs the studio security cameras. Huh? Looks like it's been turned off for the day.
Oh.
Oh.
Oh, there you go.
The security guard station. I can see the computer that runs the security cameras.
Hey, no touching.
Guess I better investigate there later.
Perhaps when she's not around.
Mayhaps.
Mayhaps.
Perhaps you should move to Studio 1. Or no, move to the employee area, please. Go on.
Oh,
Hey.
this little edgy ass child.
Who is this gonna be?
Who?
Hey, wait.
If you want to be the child, or I could be the child, either way.
I mean, you're gonna take whoever's in the fucking cabin, so I guess I could be.
You could be the child.
This kid.
The wretched child.
The wretched child.
I'll bet he came in right through that drain.
Crawled through like a little dog.
Hey, kiddo. What's your name? Sports.
Maya, you sound like
Maya, how are you so bad at talking to children? You are a
Shut
child.
the fuck up. You're not any better.
Okay.
I'm not a kid, so don't talk to me like that.
Well, you are a child.
It's a perfect voice.
Huh? But you are a kid.
You're like 10.
What rude little brats. That's no way to talk to an adult.
Maya, you're also a kid.
You're also a child.
I don't see any no adults here. Hippie fashion chick.
Oh,
my
damn.
God.
Okay.
This 10-year-old's rude.
Hippie fashion? Nick, I think I'm being mocked.
Oh my god, Maya. You gotta hand it to Maya. She's pretty sharp. And pretty mad.
I'm Cody Hackins.
Thank you for your full entire name, child. Great survival
Full-
instincts. Great,
Legal
For
name.
real? That's your full legal name, kid.
great survival instincts. You're totally not gonna get kidnapped. Ever.
Your
Oh
government
my
name.
god. Call me Kiddo again and I'll cut you down where you stand, evildoer.
His plastic sword. Okay, well, let's talk to him.
Steel Samurai. So, you're a fan of the Steel Samurai?
How dare you utter that name, evildoer? What do you mean? We're on the Steel Samurai side. Ha ha ha! You can't fool me!
He's so silly.
Okay, then what's the last line said by the innkeeper in episode 8? Huh, easy. Like some fries with that? Not bad, kiddo.
They're having like a bonding moment.
Watch it!
What are they doing?
They're having they're like having like a fan like heart to heart.
Say, you heard anything about the incident the other day?
Aww. Aww.
Aw. You were here, weren't you?
Hop. Did you see anything?
He...
Hmm?
He always... The Steel Samurai always wins! Always! Yeah, I saw him! I saw everything! What? But no way am I telling you losers! What? Wait. Let me go!
Nope.
Just punch Maya.
Oh my god. He's gone.
Well, good thing he gave us his entire full legal name.
Legal name.
And he looks so
tell his
distinct we
parents.
can actually pretty easily identify him.
Yeah, probably. Huh? Something fell off the table when he bumped into it on his way out.
Present Cody with the Cody profile.
This you? A bottle?
Oh my god, my
That's
testosterone.
That was you. That's Phoenix, right? That's the corner right there.
I was
was
looking for
Phoenix.
that.
Oh, oops.
Oh, a bottle?
Might be.
I was too distracted by making the testosterone joke.
What is this?
It's mine. Fell out of my pocket.
Powers. Obviously, this is
Oh,
from
yeah.
the studio.
Oh, fuck, you're right.
His Will Powers is testosterone. That's
Oh
why
my god,
he's
same
full, like-
dosage.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know. He might have a big stronger dosage than Phoenix, right? I mean, look
Probably. Look at his facial
Yeah.
hair.
At him.
Yeah.
He's like in his early 20s.
Why was this sitting there, I wonder? Empty bottle, slipped into pocket. Found on a table in employee area. The label reads sleeping pills. Oh, well.
Well,
Not testosterone.
Anyway, what was that kid saying? He just put a different label on it so people wouldn't get suspicious.
The pill testosterone.
he
This is
saw...
like what, the future or whatever? They can have pill
No.
testosterone.
I mean, no, I don't know about that. I mean, maybe, but maybe not. They still use like flip phones.
Yeah.
That is true.
I mean, it really is the neo old San Fran Tokyo.
Yeah, it's, oh my gosh, sorry, I'm like messing with this blister on my hand.
Oh.
Stop it!
It's
Don't do
bothering
that.
me.
Stop it! Don't look at
I
it.
know.
Don't even look at it. Don't touch it. Don't
I have to
perceive it.
pick off this dead piece of skin or I'll go insane.
No.
That's a mood. I get
Hold on,
it.
guys, I have to chew on it like a dog for a second.
Oh God.
Oh,
I'm
Okay.
shaking my head in a disapproving manner.
I understand.
Okay.
He saw everything.
I understand, but I don't approve. Go to the
Yeah.
main gate now, please.
Huh? Where's that old windbag?
Audiver to leave your post.
Oh.
Now it's you.
Oh.
Hey, is in the distance.
Nick, that was her.
Hey.
I have to be really far away. Stop! Whippersnapper!
She's in the tree, actually.
No, she's chasing down the child.
Oh, that makes more sense.
Well, you know what
Yeah.
that means.
Sounds like she's chasing after that boy.
Well, you know what that means. Fat.
What?
What?
I don't know.
Interesting.
It's just old slang. I don't get it.
Uh-oh, she tripped.
She's gonna
Fell
break a
off my
hip.
face.
Oh no, she broke her hips.
Maya sure looks happy.
Yippee! She broke her hips.
Damn it. Go
Come
get it.
in.
Not the computer.
Hey,
Maya,
hey,
it's fine.
Nick.
Maya will correct you.
Not the
Maya
computer.
will course correct you. Don't worry.
Now's our chance. Let's check out that guard station.
Good idea.
Ellipses. Oh, this is it, Nick. The trailer key.
Ow!
The key to that trailer in Studio 2.
Who would have thunk it?
We'll be borrowing this, right, Nick?
That look on your face tells me more that you're planning on just stealing it, but sure.
I'm gonna cue you later.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Okay, alright.
Oh.
I think I need to get Maya checked out.
Okay, Maya has some like violent
Some violent tendencies,
examination?
yeah.
I think it's you have to examine it.
It gets worse with every passing stream.
Yeah, it's the Miki influence.
Whoops.
Yeah.
I wonder if the key we borrowed from the guard station will work.
Oh god.
It opened.
Great, let's go, Nick.
In you go.
In you go.
He seems eager all of a sudden.
Well, you first, Nick.
Let me get a picture of Viviana to fucking.
Not that eager.
I need a picture of Viviana to harness this character's energy.
Okay.
Hold on. I'm just gonna look at Viviana. Well, go on, start snooping.
Oh,
Oh, never mind.
Oh.
Hello? Madam?
Oh, you're right. She is a Mickey character.
She's a Miki.
This is
it's
a Miki
character
enjoyed
Miki would love
character.
because it's a beautiful woman.
Yeah.
I listen. I know what you are.
I know what I am.
We know.
I know what you are.
I know. We all know. Someone's in here.
I know who you are, Maya.
Names.
Our names? We're WP's lawyers, and,
I see. She is like Viviana. She's fucking smoking like a chimney.
yeah.
She's hotboxing this trailer.
And
Oh, it's so full. I can't see anything in here.
oh fuck, I can't see.
It's kind of so smoky.
And who might you?
D. Vasquez, the producer.
Dee Vasquez. She's quite beautiful.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
She's quite beautiful.
She's quite beautiful.
Excuse me, ma'am. I just gotta look around real quick.
I need to look anywhere else.
I need to look somewhere past you real quick. Will my boner away.
No.
You did not have to say that last part, gamer.
That was me. That was a note from me personally.
For real? You did not have to say that?
Just right now, actively.
Okay, man.
The
The glass is frosted. I can't see outside.
Your words
It's actually just the
gamer.
smoke and ash collecting on the window.
See, but that's the joke, guys.
What's the joke?
Uh-huh.
The
They have no
transness of it
penis?
all. Can't have
Yeah.
a boner.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can. It's
you
in your
can.
mind.
And it's the mind boner.
Yeah, the mind boner.
Yeah, it's still just because it's not there doesn't mean it's not there.
It's there deep in the recesses of my mind.
Part of your mind palace that's just like the boner detection.
The boner room.
You have a specific portion of your mind palace dedicated to the boner room.
Yeah, you got like the squidlings, the the ones in your mind that work in the mind palace are like
Mhm.
it's like the beacon is lit, Gondor calls for aid. It's like the boner room is lit.
The boner room is lit.
Oh my god.
The boner beacon is lit. Alright.
This part of October, the dimming daylight makes it feel like winter's coming. Wait, that's crazy because
Something else will be coming. Sorry, continue.
something else.
What was your bit?
That it was a similar bit.
Oh.
I can't believe this has
Just
occurred.
the same brain. I'm sorry.
It looks like they were designing a set to use for the Steel Samurai show. They've got some figures for how much the set costs. I can't believe they spend that much money on those sets.
I think people watching the RGB Squid channel and streams will like they have to
They
know that this is
understand.
what they're gonna get, right? Like
Yeah, they
it's
get
I
it.
not
know.
the quality won't get any better.
Yeah.
What are you talking
It's
about?
all
This is quality content.
it's
This
piss
is
jokes all the way down.
it's
That's
true.
what I am. If anything, I am a comedy streamer. I call myself
yeah, it's
variety,
just
but
that
I'm
our
not much.
comedy is our our comedy is just sex joke. That's it. That's all we do.
Yeah.
And then maybe like piss his
No.
pants like one time. The piss in the pants jokes and such.
This is look. It's a
And
casual
then like,
comedy stream.
Yeah.
Another old movie poster, The Singing Samurai, starring Jack Hammer.
We're actually here to make people feel smarter.
Yeah, that's real.
Yeah.
Feel stupid? Come watch my streams.
And then our brainless energy will uplift your spirits.
Nodding.
It's awesome. We're so awesome. We're so funny.
What the hell do samurai sing about? Chopping off heads?
Oh my god.
They're just doing this.
That movie was the best. It's about a samurai who sings his way to fame and fortune.
Your tax dollars pay for
Awesome.
this show. I wish I got your tax dollars. I don't get shit.
Yeah, give
Your
your
range.
tax dollars.
Actually, your ad watching pays for this show, except it doesn't. It gives me like
it
3
doesn't meet
cents.
the threshold for actually need to pay taxes for it.
Yeah,
There's
I
a
was like, do
threshold
I need
for
a
it.
W-2? And I looked on my Twitch
No.
stuff, and I'm like, I don't need a W-2.
Yeah, there's a certain threshold for that type of stuff.
Oh, another shrimp. Hold on, I gotta get another shrimp up.
Shrimp.
Imig.
The shrimp.
Imig.
And
Shrimp.
Shrimp.
Where do you want your shrimps? Where's your shrimp going? I'll rotate it.
Can you cover my face with the shrimp?
Stream choice.
Stream choice. I guess it's going over. I guess it's going
over my face.
Yeah.
Your face is so tiny now.
I want you to replace my head with the shrimp.
Yeah, there you go.
Shrimp head.
Like that.
Yeah. Perfect.
I think it needs to be. There's got like a little peak of eye. I think I gotta rotate it this way a little bit.
Yeah, you rotate it so like when I'm talking, it's just like the hand is still a little visible. And then, oh no, there you go. You got it.
Yeah, that works.
Perfect. Yeah, the point is visible.
Miles shrimp worth. Oh my gosh. Did we do this one?
Yeah, we did.
I was too busy talking about shrimp.
Mr. Hammer was a very accomplished singer, you know.
Hell yeah.
Singing Samurai Stars. What's next? Ninja Ballet?
Good idea.
I hope so, yeah. That sounds awesome. Samurai Summer, starring Jack Hammer. This poster's quite old.
Wow, it's been years since I saw that show. It was one of those typical summer romance stories, but it was great.
A typical summer romance with a samurai on a horse?
Yeah, Phoenix. What did you understand?
Maya, be honest with me. Was it the man and the horse?
No.
Okay.
Well, it's a bit more complicated than no.
Okay, I don't like that answer. I don't like the hesitation.
The horse becomes a man.
Yeah, it's kind of like a centaur situation.
It's a BL show, and the horse becomes a man.
Yeah.
And they kiss.
Prince and the horse. Like Princess and the Frog, but with a horse.
An old movie poster. Well, you don't say.
Sorry.
Dynamite Samurai, starring Jack Hammer.
Wow.
I guess Mr. Hammer used to be quite oh my god.
Yeah.
I guess Mr. Hammer used to be quite the star.
What you said.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
No.
This is where they had that meeting. No, they all sat on the floor, crisscross applesauce, and held hands.
That's on Kumbaya.
There are documents and paper cups scattered around. What y'all drinking? What y'all drinking?
I think that's
acid.
Yeah, it's probably
It's
tea.
actually Mountain Dew.
Oh my god, they got the neon green Mountain Dew. Trash
Yum.
can.
It's always neon green. What are you talking about?
No, there's one that's like battery acid green. It's like different than the regular Mountain Dew, which is neon, but the
What?
one of them is like even more vibrant.
Hold on, I'm gonna Google this.
I can't remember which one.
Colors.
Colors.
There are some like crazy colored Mountain Dews.
Oh my god. The yellow.
Yellow.
Piss.
Yeah, there's code
There's-
red. There's code
okay.
blue.
There's
There's
a
the
clear
yellow one. There's clear. There's white. There's purple. I had a purple one.
Oh.
There's a pink one.
Mm-hmm.
I think there used to be an orange one that might have been like
No,
a
there's an
limited
orange.
edition.
There's
There's the Baja
3
Blast.
different orange ones. According to this Google search that I've done here.
I could have sworn there was a really, really like bright green, like chartreuse color one.
I think that's always.
No. There's like a different. It's not the original. It's something else.
What?
Is it this one?
Hold on, I got now we're doing it.
Is it
Now we're doing
Mountain
investigative.
Dew Citrus Blast?
Is it that one?
That's a Gatorade.
That's a Gatorade, Nikki.
Oh,
That's a Gatorade.
wait. I make
Nikki, it has a big G on it. That's a Gatorade.
Listen, gamer. I
You
made
Hey,
don't
guys.
Sorry, you don't have eyes. I can't.
Hey guys, check out this Mountain Dew flavor.
Is it? Are you talking about this?
Okay, hold on.
Is it this? The
That one, yeah.
Hold on,
Yeah.
hold on. I have to show everybody what Mickey said does.
It's a really low quality picture too.
Hey guys,
Listen. I was looking at colors. I was looking just at colors. I was not fucking paying attention.
took a screenshot instead of.
Listen. Leave me alone. I'm just a little guy.
Oh my
Oh,
god!
no.
Oh my god! You know what? It's going up
Can
there
you make
with
it
you.
really small?
No.
Can you
Why
like
did you
place
do
it over the cup where the tea?
Yeah.
Can you place it over the tea temporarily?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, there you go. See, it matches.
Blends right in.
That's right. Yeah, no, give it back to Miki. Miki can have it.
I don't want it.
It's too late.
Have your
Too late. Yum Mountain Dew.
Yum. Listen,
Mountain
I don't
Dew.
have an excuse.
Yeah, I
I
think
have
this
no
is the one I
idea.
was talking about. It's like
that one.
it's like bright ass yellow,
Yeah.
It says
green.
Citrus Blast. It is
Okay.
fluorescent.
Yeah. It'll glow
It's
in
like
the dark.
a highlighter.
Yeah.
That'll kill you.
Just
And that'll
that
shave
tickled
like
me
7
so
years off of your
much.
life.
That tickled me.
It's truly.
Mickey, that's Gatorade.
Miki, that's Gatorade.
Just
Listen,
Oh no.
I don't have an excuse.
it's okay. It's alright.
You want to defend yourself, but you know what went
I
wrong.
know it's wrong. It's just straight up wrong. Might be.
Oh my gosh, that's
Oh,
okay.
no.
That's funny.
That's really funny.
Nothing in here that could be a clue.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
especially not the Mountain Dew Gatorade on the table.
Oh my gosh. And it's funny because the one that you sent is actually what that might be the cucumber one actually, but I drink a green Gatorade regularly. It's the green apple one.
You drink
I
a
like that
new fact unlocked. Squid drinks a green Gatorade regularly.
I love a
I don't
green
know why I have
apple.
such a hard
Color
time with
green.
both the word Gatorade and regularly in the same sentence. I don't know what something happened there. There's too many R's.
Too
I
many R's.
love green apple Gatorade. It's so
Yum.
good.
Y'all out here drinking drinks.
I
They
like
don't have a-
consuming
I can't drink it a lot, actually. I say regularly, but it's
does it
like
make your
once
tummy hurt?
a few months. Well, it's because they don't have a zero sugar version,
Mm.
so I only drink it if they have it. A lot of times, the grocery store near me doesn't even have it, but like once a month they'll have it, so I'll just drink it like once a month.
You know what's zero sugar?
I need the zero sugar.
Water. You know what's zero sugar? Water.
Yeah, because the Gatorade. Oh my god, they put so much sugar in that shit, and for what?
Stay hydrated, babes.
I know. I drink a lot of bubble water.
Y'all,
Hydrate. I
if you're
take a
drinking
sippy
bubble
now.
water,
I need
take your
water.
sip.
Yeah.
Take your sip. I have my large jar of just water.
Me too.
Actually, I'll top up my.
It's like the size of my head. I just like to have it.
Oh, I should send you a picture of my giant ass, like 3-liter water bottle
Yum.
that I could like kill a man with if it was full.
I have my cute little glass jar. That's actually quite large.
I'm actually gonna pour myself more sparkle water. Guys, I got a cup with a straw this
What's
time, so you
like-
didn't have to hear me
What are like
slurp.
the? But the slurping's the funniest part.
No,
It's a Squid Stream experience.
it is the slurp.
It's part of the experience.
Slurping, yeah.
The slurping.
Well, no, like, what's like, what are like, why drink sparkle bubble water? Genuine question.
To live again.
Yeah, to feel something. No,
Feel something.
for me, it's because, I don't like. I'm not one of those
You
people
don't
that's
like
like.
water?
No. I'm not one of those people that is like, I don't like the taste of water. Meh, 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 meh. I don't like the taste of the water in my house.
No,
That's fair.
And I don't want to create a lot of water bottle trash.
That's fair.
So instead, I have like a machine that has like a carbonator that I can make my own, but that's in storage. So right now I have to buy it.
Oh, so you're
That's
still
fair.
doing water bottle.
I
You
know
silly
it,
kid.
it ends up being like an aluminum can that goes in recycling.
Yeah, the
But-
thing with the area you reside in, my parents also don't trust the water there, so they also end up buying bottled water.
And we
a lot.
have a
Makes
filter. We have like a really good filter, but the taste
Uh-huh.
is so bad. It's still so bad.
Yeah, that's fair. That's 100% fair.
So yeah, so temporarily until I move and have my carbonating machine again.
Maybe I just hate carbonation.
That could be it. I know people don't like it.
Toxic. Maybe I'm the problem. I just like if I'm gonna have a carbonated drink, I want it to be sweet. Like if it's just water, I'm like, why would I drink this over water?
See, that's another thing. I have I'll drink a carbonated water instead of a soda. Because I really shouldn't be having soda anyways.
I'm nodding. I'm nodding.
And a lot of those sodas have caffeine in them, and the caffeine makes my tummy hurt.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, my main 2 drinks of choice, and by that I mean the only ones I really drink ever, because we don't really go out to get funky drinks because we're silly. I got my coffee and then my water, and I am content. I need my juice that makes me go crazy.
Yeah, I like fruit juice.
Coffee.
Fruit juices.
Fruit juice.
I like to get a
really
fruit juice.
I make a lot of smoothies.
Smoothies are good.
That's very nice.
But that's because my parents have a banana tree, so it's like they keep sending
Oh
me
my gosh,
bananas.
we've got
so it's
bananas now
we gotta
too.
use them.
We have like a patch of banana trees in the back of our yard, and they're just now putting out the nanners.
Yeah, my parents were like, we should visit soon because we have so many bananas.
My parents like to offload fruit on me too, especially when I was living by myself. They would just bring so much fruit from the yard.
Yeah, I'm like, Mom, Dad, I cannot finish this. But at least with bananas, they freeze well, and I can always put them into like a smoothie or bake them into like banana bread or something, and they'll still be fine.
Yeah, we make a lot of banana bread.
Banana bread.
Banana bread.
We used to have a grapefruit tree. And we used to have blood oranges. I miss blood oranges.
Blood oranges are so good.
They're
I saw
so
some in the
good.
store. I'm like, I just straight up bought some because I'm like, I wanted some oranges.
I almost bought. Oh my gosh, guys! I almost bought blood oranges the other day because I was getting groceries. I bought 4 things. I bought a thing of cottage cheese for my mom. It was 4 small cups of cottage cheese, a half bag of apples, a bag of mandarin oranges, and then like one other like thing that should have been cheap. I think it was like bread. It was like $20.
Oh my god.
No.
4 items, $20.
Yeah.
But then I made myself feel better because I went to the Aldi and got like a whole bunch of stuff to cook dinner for just 15. And I was like, okay, I feel better now.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. The state of the economy. Anyways.
The state of the world.
Real.
The state of the economy.
State of America these days.
Nothing here that could be a clue.
Anyways, that's Samurai.
Just some paper cups and crumbled documents and thinking about the end of the world.
Yahoo!
Yippee!
Yippee!
Is there anything else in this stinky room?
You gotta talk to the sexy woman.
I know, I just wanted to see if there's anything else to look at. Anyways, bye. No.
I've lost the voice now. We're too busy being goofy. It's gone.
The day of the crime.
Just like how every time I start a session with Viviana, I like forget her voice. I have to settle into it again.
I wish murder cases were real to solve. I mean,
what?
They are real.
What?
I did work in a courthouse, not at courtside, but I did work there.
I wish murder cases were real. Have you seen the world?
Yeah.
I did also. I took a
I don't.
a criminology class or whatever. Yeah.
I don't see.
I don't see. I was wondering if you could tell me about the day of the murder, ma'am.
Ellipses.
Miss Vasquez?
Script.
Excuse me?
Script. I'm looking for a script.
A script?
The Steel Samurai, episode 13. I need it.
Okay.
Okay. Could we ask you a bit about the day of the murder?
I need to read it.
Oh, okay.
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 Ellipses.
We're getting nowhere fast.
I'm not talking to you until you give me that script. You have to go on a little side quest.
Why?
We'd really like to ask you about the Steel Samurai.
The theme song kicking in.
The theme song actually rips.
It is pretty epic.
Miss Vasquez? Miss Vasquez, I know you can't hear me over the music you just started blasting.
Just turning up the Steel Samurai music. It's on TV every week. That's all I have to say about that.
Okay.
Nick, she's telling us to go watch TV.
Oh?
Oh no, Mickey's
The
dying.
nerve of her.
Oh, Mickey's back.
Hello?
Oh my gosh, he like
Hello.
disappeared into the void for a second.
Went to your homeland.
I had to leave. Sorry, guys.
Teleported
Nick.
out of existence for a second.
Yeah.
She's telling us to go watch TV. The nerve of her.
Hey, don't get mad at me. About the director? Salmonella, was it? What exactly is his role here?
Perhaps I didn't make myself clear. I'm looking for a script. I can't be bothered with anything else.
Okay.
She is Viviana Cora, fuck.
Nick? Are all people in the entertainment business this weird?
Yes. It's starting to look like it.
Nick, let's get out of here. Isn't there some else? Isn't there someplace else we have to check?
Yeah.
Wait.
Yes.
If you see Manila, give him this.
Oh god. Why do we have to do your errands?
Maya, you act like we're not gonna do it anyways.
I don't think I like her. Sniff.
Don't
like
cry.
her.
She'll take it as a sign of weakness.
Yeah.
She'll smell
take it
your
as a
fear.
sign of weakness.
Man.
Alright, we'll give it to him if we see him.
Maybe this is Viviana.
Yeah, you can keep her.
Best guess is memo. The memo reads, bring me the script for episode 13. And it looks like a bunch of other things too. But it won't let us read it.
It's a long line of swear words.
She's like, you fucking idiot.
Yeah.
No, go back.
Do we have to look at that guy again?
Yes.
I think we might have to. I really don't want to.
Man.
I really don't want to.
Oh,
Man.
sorry. The Shmover. Present. There! Go on.
Here, I got this from the producer. Sorry, I'll sit up.
Huh? Home? Bring me the script for episode 13. Episode 13? Where did I put that one? I must have left it somewhere. Sweats. You're always sweating, sir. Uh-oh, my ass is pound. If I don't find it, shakes.
Your ass is what?
Nick. It might be quicker to just look in all places where he's likely to have been.
Like the director's
I
chair.
agree.
Let's not talk to him anymore.
You can just leave.
Just leave.
Off you go to the fucking studio. Studio One, please.
Studio One, please.
Studio One, please.
Ugh. One.
It is understandable that you were lurking with that guy, Fiery. Good luck with whatever you're doing. Thumbs up.
No, we haven't seen him. We're not looking at him for a bit. We're fine.
Oh, thank God.
I think. I'm not sure. We have to like visit him again for a brief interaction, but
No!
it's fine.
No!
We're back at the scene of the crime.
Yeah, this place you hate.
Let's find what we need and get out of here quick, Nick.
No. Hey, Maya, you want to touch where the dead body was?
No.
Why not? Why not?
You do it.
Okay. You just start like rolling around in it.
Hey! Look, that's the chair the director sits in. I've always wanted to sit in one of these.
Are you sure? It's right next to where the body was.
I don't have any spatial awareness beyond this chair.
The director. Maya, take a look around that chair for me, would you? Remember that script the director was talking about? Didn't he say he left it somewhere?
Aha! Found it, Nick. The script.
Why is it stained? Or does it just look like that?
Blood.
No, it's stained.
Blood.
Blood.
Blood. I don't know if it's blood. I think it's just like grimy.
Ugh.
But like it could be.
It could
Could
be.
be blood. Yeah, the director is the dude. Is the sweaty dude. The producer is the lady.
Is a hot woman.
Is the hot woman. Who's like very mean to us.
We like that one.
We like that one. We don't like the guy.
We don't like the guy. We like the woman.
We love women.
Good work.
Guys, to clarify, we love women.
We love women. I love
We love
women.
women.
If any woman wants to manipulate me, I'm free.
Mood.
Squid, you have partners.
Yeah,
I am open to. I'm open to another one.
Squid!
What?
Share some with the rest of us.
No.
No! How
No.
dare you?
Man.
You're collecting all the. You're just collecting people with your big, wet, pathetic eyes.
It's my
big white
specialty.
cat.
Your boy personality.
It's my specialty.
Captivating them.
You gotta let me have this. I can't have anything else in life.
Why are you here? We need to go to the.
I thought,
we don't need to be
the
here.
other way. Sorry.
You should go to the woman. She wants the.
For some reason,
script.
I thought I had to show it to him too. Be like,
No,
here
why
you
would
go,
we
you
have to-
we
fucking
aren't
idiot.
looking at him more than we have to.
Now. There we go.
In you go. Script.
Oh my god, this one. Here, we found it. Your script. I'll update the wiki, or maybe this is for myself. What? The wiki. What wiki?
The wiki that we like women.
Oh, the fucking RGB Squid wiki.
Do we have a wiki?
That would
No,
be
I don't think so.
I would hope not.
That would be crazy.
I hope not. That would be actually pretty insane, and I would feel too self-conscious about it.
That's fair. I'd be mildly impressed, though. I'm not gonna lie.
I would be pretty impressed.
The Squid
It has
Wiki.
like a collection of all our bits in it.
That would be crazy.
Deep lore.
How many terrible, awful things I've said.
Yeah, there's. I mean, one of the you gotta have the fish heads are yummy and the.
And the textures
Yeah.
are different and good.
Of course.
It's true.
Yeah. And that has to be on the wiki, the hypothetical wiki. That
The
doesn't
course.
exist.
hypothetical wiki.
The quotes section is like 3 pages long.
Yeah, of the same quote.
All of the fish heads, but
Yeah,
bit.
yeah.
Oh my
It's like
god.
it has like the references linked to the different streams where we say it, time
Yeah.
stamped. That's the only thing I want on a wiki.
That would be
It's
kind of
timestamps.
epic.
Yeah.
Yeah, or the RGB
Crazy.
Squidverse wiki, and it's just all the timestamps of whenever we make that joke or mention it.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Script handed to D. Vasquez.
Sure did.
You're not gonna talk to us?
Shut up. Oh,
Wow.
Yeah, for real.
I'm reading.
Exclamation points. Just you hold on. What's the big idea? Who do you think you are anyway? And do you even know who we are?
I don't think she gives a shit, Maya.
Look at her. Powers as lawyers.
Right.
Am I a suspect?
I mean, do you think you should be a suspect?
That's something you ask suspects. No, it's just, well, no, but...
You wanted to know about the day of the murder.
That ominous music kicked in.
Yippee! Yes, anything you could tell us would be a big help.
You know, there was a meeting here at noon. Oh, you know there was a meeting here at noon.
Yes, with the director and the people from the network.
Correct. Now, listen closely. None of the people in this trailer that afternoon went to Studio One. It was impossible for us to leave.
Impossible? Why?
The path was blocked.
The path? Oh, yeah.
Guide map to Global Studios. Okay. I think it might be the map. I'm not sure.
Okay,
Oh,
not
no.
this one.
Why'd you just present randomly? Question mark. Oh. Question mark?
Oh, just press anything?
I don't know. I'm confused. What are you doing?
I don't know. It brought it up on its own.
Oh.
I did not do that.
Error.
Okay.
Maybe you accidentally
Okay.
pressed present. Maybe you misclicked something.
But the present button is on the opposite side of my keyboard, I think. Yeah, court record is in
Maybe it's on
tab,
court.
and I'm not on any on that side.
That's just court record. On the
court
bottom,
record.
on the text
Yeah,
thing, there's the topic
but that
and
brings
present.
this up.
Yeah, but you can't present from here. I don't know.
I have no idea. I think it's the same button. I don't know what happened. Anyways. On the day of the murder, the path that leads here was blocked.
You saw Mr. Monkey on the way here, correct?
Mr. Monkey?
The monkey with the broken head.
Oh, right. That. What an original name. Hi, Shay. Hi.
Hello.
Oh.
Oh.
No, this wasn't the only murder that was happened. Mr. Monkey also perished.
Oh fuck.
We need to find the culprit of Mr. Monkey's death. Its head fell over in the wind on the day of the murder. They didn't start moving the head out of the way until after 3 o'clock. It was after 4 by the time the path was unblocked. Capiche? Everyone in this trailer was stuck here until the path was cleared.
Nobody took a little wander into the woods?
Into the woods.
To the woods.
Stuck in this trailer, stuck until after 4 o'clock. Hammer died at 2:30. Thus, none of us could have gone to Studio One.
What?
Oh?
Huh?
It's true. A crane came just after 3 o'clock to move the head. We called some people in to clear the way. I'm sure they'd corroborate my story.
Corroborate?
Corroborate,
That's not what
yeah.
I said. Yeah.
But wait. What if the head fell over after 2:30? Then you could have gone to Studio One.
2:30, the time of death. Very well. Come.
Okay.
Sometimes you can keep your thoughts to yourself.
I was being silly.
I'm kidding.
Why must you criminalize me for being silly?
That's Mr. Monkey. When it wasn't broken, it announced the time in ooks. 1 ook per hour. Ook, 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 ook. Always with the ooking.
It is a monkey after all.
I fucking hated that thing. Check its head. The clock inside stopped when it broke. Clock inside stopped when it broke. I know how to do tones. I know how to speak like a normal person.
Totally.
Ellipses exclamation mark. Nick, it stopped at 2:15.
2:15.
That's right. I'm here to see this tragic scene again.
The tragedy.
This past... I know how to speak words. I hate THs.
Me too.
It's a fun fact. I hate THs with like a passion.
We should get rid of them.
This path was blocked from 2:15 till after 4 o'clock.
Wait, but you could still have gotten out at 2:15 or like before 2:15 to go kill a man. This logic doesn't make any sense.
But they're in a meeting.
So somebody's like, I gotta piss and step outside.
I gotta piss and kill
I'd like
a man.
poo.
Sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do.
Therefore, we're innocent.
Mr. Hammer died in Studio 1 at 2:30.
I see. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Mr. Monkey's head data added to the court record.
Mr.
Block the
Monkey's
path of
head.
his fiend. Crime between 2:15 and 4.
He's so sad. A tragedy.
What do we do, Nick?
He died for our sins.
There isn't anyone besides WP who could have killed Hammer.
Are you sure about that?
It's so Jover. We're finished.
It's Jover, Phoenix.
It's so Jover.
It sure doesn't look good.
Can we send you to prison instead?
What? Guess we
What's
should
a
head
plea
back to the office and plan our strategy. Stop trying to send me to jail. Oh boy.
Out you go.
Out you go.
Yeah.
To the
Wait, where are we
Wright
going?
and Co. Law offices.
October 18th? Now what? We're fresh out of clues. Everyone's alibi is watertight. We don't even have any promising leads. Sorry, I thought I was hearing a phone ringing.
That was me.
Things are looking pretty grim.
That's probably you.
It's a little early for giving up, don't you think?
Huh?
Oh. You've got one lead.
Mia!
Okay.
Mia, it's you!
Mia!
What took you so long?
Sorry, Phoenix. Maya has trouble calling me unless she's really in trouble.
Right. Oh, wait. I guess that means we're really in trouble.
I'd say so.
What did you mean we have one lead?
The boy, of course.
A 10-year-old child.
That Ben 10 looking motherfucker.
Give us
Oh my god.
Yeah, I saw him. I saw everything. What? But no way am I telling you losers.
I don't know. He didn't sound like he was gonna help us at all.
I'm sure you can find some way of bringing him over to your side. Either way, we should go back to the studios. That boy is our last hope, Phoenix. Otherwise, you're going to jail.
Thanks. Now I'm more worried than I was before. Can I talk to you? No, you're just gonna talk about the same stuff all over again. Oh. Ma'am.
Oh god. I'm sorry.
You're so normal, gamer.
What's wrong?
Whippersnapper! That's not
She's-
her voice.
She's
out of breath, it's okay.
She's been chasing that boy this whole time? Hi, Orion.
It's not even a question, it's a period. He's like, oh, she's... when I catch him,
Sounds like she hasn't had any luck catching him.
She sounds like she might be going into cardiac arrest.
I feel like I'm going into cardiac arrest.
Please don't.
No!
I got a hostage now, whippersnapper!
Hostage?
Skeletor!
Skeletor! I love the Skeletor voice. A hostage?
A child?
No.
Oh.
The hostage. What's this about a hostage?
When the boy was, oh god, it won't leave. It won't leave there.
Well,
It's
when that
destiny.
boy was running away, he dropped this and ran. Huff, puff, huff. He'll come back for this one.
It's kind of hard to understand her with all that huffing and puffing.
Phoenix, that hostage might be what we need. Cody might talk to us if we give him that.
Good idea. Miss Oldbag, might I...
No! I'm catching that brat if it's the last thing I do.
Phoenix, do you have anything that you might trade with her?
This sprite is cute.
It is very cute, actually.
Wow, I see.
It is so cute.
Thinker.
A trade. I wonder...
Present.
Her keys?
Oh, wait,
No.
That you stole.
I know what it is actually. You guys, if you can think it,
Oh, the
you
sleep?
have it already. No,
No. The key.
I think I know what it is. But...
The one that we stole.
The thing we stole?
Give it a try.
Give this?
No, not that one.
This?
You need that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think we still need this, but...
It's okay.
Hey, that half. That's a card. Studio 1.
Right. A card key to Studio 1.
Half. I could visit poor Hammer. I'd like to visit. He died. We're
Well,
here. I was his fan.
you don't have your own card, Miss Oldbag?
They won't let me in. Studio 1 isn't my turf. Half. You'll let me borrow it then. Pleading emoji.
If I give her the
emoji.
if I give her the card key, then I won't be able to get into Studio 1. I don't think I need to.
I think you've gleaned all that you can from there.
Why don't you let her borrow it, Phoenix? I'll take it back if necessary.
I guess it can't hurt. Here you go, Miss Oldbag. Card key lent to Miss Oldbag.
I'm normal again.
Yeah, I was gonna say, she's normal again.
I'm calm. Listen to me, Sonny. I don't like having debts to no whippersnappers. You take this and we're even, dear.
She's so
Trade
locked
card.
in. She's locked in now,
I'm
yeah.
locked in. I'm going to sprint the other way once you finish this trade.
She's so
What's
You
this?
best believe
locked in.
A Steel Samurai trading card?
that sneaky kid dropped it. I figure it's pretty important to him, though.
Thank you. I may have a use for this. This must be the hostage she was talking about. Steel Samurai card added to the court record.
Now I'm going to run off to the other direction. Right, I'm off. Bye.
There she goes, hobbling off toward the studio.
Well, off
you
go. Employee area.
Employee area.
There he is. Oh, that's... Oh.
Ah.
Hey, you, wait a sec.
Ellipses. Phoenix, was that the boy?
Yeah, his name's Cody Hackett's. Real convenient that he gave me his entire full legal name.
Full legal name. I think he ran into the dressing room.
I got you now, bitch.
You're cornered.
Nothing suspicious about this situation. He's sure to be in here somewhere.
He's in the coats. Oh.
Found you.
Ellipses! Exclamation point.
Damn it, he's getting away!
Block the doors.
Come back!
Well,
There. He's back.
Because you're a pretty lady.
Because Mia's commanding energy.
How did she...
Hey there. Would you mind helping us out? Please?
Maybe it's because you need... Maybe it's because you need to close that shirt.
Oh no.
Girl, how are you cold? How are you not cold?
I'm Cody.
This face is so silly.
Hello, Cody. I'm Mia. Mia Fey. Nice to meet you.
She's got like mom energy.
Yo!
This fucking One Piece smile.
Yeah.
And I'm Phoenix Wright. Oh,
Who asked?
humbled by a child.
Who asked? For real? Phoenix, you can take it from here.
Well, I don't think he wants to talk to me, Mia. I think he wants to talk to you. You see that big
Nah.
old smile on his face?
I'm good.
I'm not so sure I'm qualified. Steel Samurai. The Steel Samurai is so cool. I think he's, the bomb.
What would a lamer like you know about the Steel Samurai?
Hey, watch that attitude.
Phoenix, you really shouldn't yell like that. He's only a kid.
Mia, this kid's dunking on me.
Yeah, and you deserve it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? Don't yell like that. I'm only a kid.
So, do you know anything about what happened here? Could you tell me, please?
I don't know nothing.
Mia, just talk to this damn kid. Looks like a little persuasion is necessary. Maybe a bribe? Mayhaps a bribe? Mayhaps a bribe? I can't do it from this window?
You have to be in your presence. You have to go back to the right. Where it says present. I think this is the screen you were in before.
Cody, this look familiar?
Hey! You are! You're?
You are, huh?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Making sure. You are. You know. Oh, ultra rare! That card's really hard to get. Oh?
Oh, you're
You're
back.
fine.
Oh no. Oops.
You're fine. You're fine.
Man, for a grown up, you sure are dumb.
Yeah, they're like, because the thing about the glitching with the Miki is that it cuts off for a moment, but then it plays the rest of it right after.
Yeah, it plays the
Really?
rest of the audio
Yeah.
once you're back, yeah.
So
They're
weird.
gone. It's like, for the grown up, you're so.
Yeah, you go, it's like,
Yeah.
bro? A grown up, like, you'll like disappear for like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
I'm just like fading out of existence. Sorry, guys.
It really does. It sounds like you fall down a hole.
reality.
Every time that happens, this Miki is replaced with a different Miki from the hive
That's
mind.
true. I mean, it's from the heart mind. More Mickey lore, guys.
Yeah. Miki is a hive mind.
This is true.
I'll give you this if you help me.
But that's my card! By offering me something I already own, you're in effect eschewing the very basis of our consumer society, namely the principle of fair trade.
What are you
Oh my
talking
God.
about?
Oh my god.
Man, for a grown-up, you sure are dumb.
Oh my god.
What do they teach these kids in school these days? Quantum physics?
Man, for a grown up, you sure are dumb.
Whatever, I don't need that card.
Huh?
I got a double. Just keep it. It's yours.
He's like, just keep it.
What? After I went through all that trouble.
Oh, we're in ad break. Oops. We're not anymore, but oops.
Oh,
It's okay.
oopsies.
It's too
If
late.
you-
They'll see the VOD.
They'll see it. That's fine.
They'll see it.
If you want to trade, find me a really rare card.
How about this? You tell me what I'm asking, and I won't throw you through a window. How about that?
No.
Really rare? You mean there's something rarer than ultra rare?
Ultra rare premium cards are way rarer than plain ultra rare cards. Come on. Man, for a grown up, you sure are dumb.
Oh my god. Premium rare. Why do I feel like we're talking about steaks?
Your face is just hungry. Well,
Hey, what about the monkey? No. Kind of looks like a card if you think about it. Okay.
Huh?
time to tell you. Well, you can't. Just move, please.
In the move.
Okay.
Please move. Please move a little bit, real quick. Please move again. Back to the main gate. Please move again. To the outside, Studio 1. Please. Thank you. Please move again. Yeah, outside Studio 2, please. Actually, go, and then go back. And then go back.
What are you doing?
Hold on, go back. I'm thinking, I'm pondering. What was it? Oh no, you go back to the dressing room area. Hold on. I have thoughts. I have thoughts in my mind, I promise.
Uh-huh. Do you have thoughts? Is that what's going on?
You mean normally or just like for this?
For this.
Okay, actually, hold on. Go back and talk to him again. I think I forgot something.
Okay.
Hold on. Talk. Not present, Squid.
Talk.
I'm just looking. Oh my god.
Hold on. Never mind. I got it. I got it. Understand. Picture.
Uh-huh.
The
I was gonna say, is it the...
I think.
I was gonna say, it could be the picture or something else.
The photograph.
That would be limited edition. That would be rare. That would be rare.
Well, it's not like a card, but I just wanna know what he wants to say about it.
He might be like,
There you go.
hey, it's the Steel Samurai.
This fucking 10-year-old.
Huh? Why is he dragging his foot like that? Where'd you get this anyway? Okay.
He didn't care. Can I offer him this?
Offer him. Let's talk about it.
You want this weapon?
The Samurai Spear! That's totally cool. I wish I had one too.
Aww.
This kid and Maya would get along great. You want these drugs?
No.
Want this key? This attorney's badge?
You could do the attorney's badge.
I think he'll just clown on me.
Check this out.
What's that? Boring.
Alright, he did clown on you.
Man, how can one person be so lame? If you were a superhero, you'd be called Lame-O Man.
Oh my god.
Jesus Christ, this child.
This child? Where are your parents?
Where are your parents?
Where are your parents? Do you think Maya would have cards? Does Old Bag have cards? No.
Well, we can't talk to her right now.
She's gone.
I mean,
Well, I know,
maybe
like-
we'll summon her if you touch the. Oh man.
Oh yeah, hold on.
To touch the
I'm
computer.
touching
needs to
her,
summon
touching your
her.
computer
No,
again.
I'm kidding.
Security guard station, blah blah blah.
Nah.
And is there anything in the car?
Just rummage through
Studio
the
van,
car.
probably use it, blah blah. Oh no!
No.
Can we talk to the producer lady? Maybe she has some for us. I don't know.
Maybe, let's see.
Maybe she's finished reading.
Yeah.
There you go.
Awesome.
Oh, thank
I
god.
was wondering if we had to go in here, but
Oh!
oh, there she is.
Jump scare.
There you go.
Oh, hi. It's still the Mickey hour.
Okay.
Hello, what brings you here?
Oh, well, I had to arrange some stuff.
Yes?
The, girl with you, doesn't she seem a little different?
She's
Like-
suddenly tall and has big boobs. What's happening?
Is she even the same person as before?
Nope. She's the same as always.
The same as always. Okay. Whatever you say.
Have you seen that boy since then?
Nope. You missed it, though. The security lady was chasing around after the boy so fast I thought she'd collapse. Of course, he got away in the end. Boy, was she mad.
Actually, we saw them. How's the old windbag doing?
She was squeezing donuts through her clenched fists back at the guard station.
Me.
Some people take their jobs a little too seriously. Are all the posters on the wall here of Hammer?
Yes, it's really a terrible loss for the studio.
But his popularity had been waning recently, right?
That's true. And then again, after what happened,
After what happened? Oh, you mean him dying?
No. That's before.
you mean you don't know about Hammer?
About the reason of his popularity waning.
No, what?
I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said anything.
What happened? Girl, what happened?
No,
Wait, now you have to tell me. What happened with Hammer?
no. I'm sorry. I'm probably not the one who should tell you.
Well, Hammer can't tell me, he's dead. Oh, why do I get the feeling something's being covered up here?
Well, can you present the cards to her, please?
Do you know anything about this?
Hey, that's a Steel Samurai trading card. I collect those, actually. I'm one card away from a complete set.
A complete set?
Yeah, a set of one of each card.
Huh.
Wait! That's it! That's the card I need! You don't know how long I've been looking for it. I don't care what kind of girl you might think I am. I need that card!
Oh my god.
Please! I beg you! Please trade with me!
Trade with you?
Yes, trade cards! Look, I'll even trade you an ultra rare premium card!
Oh my god.
Trade me a... Huh?
Yes, it's a good deal for your ultra rare! Please? Phoenix, can't you see she's desperate?
You have to help her.
What,
You have
what's
to help
everybody
her.
getting so excited about?
Go on, trade.
Trade. Okay.
Really? Thanks! Then this is for you.
URP card added to the court record.
Yahoo!
And there she goes.
She runs.
She just sprints away.
Good for her.
Yahoo! With the sprint.
Yahoo! Doesn't doing good things like that make you feel great?
Makes me feel confused. It's okay. Yeah, it does. Okay.
Question mark. Well,
It
time to give that
does?
boy his ultra rare premium card. So much movement.
So much movement.
You! No!
Not
Me.
talk.
Take this shit. See this card?
No.
Photograph.
Yeah. So
Look
wait,
at this
that's it?
photograph!
That's the last ultra rare premium card I need.
Oh my god.
Come on, give it to me, please. You gotta give it to me.
Wow, I've never seen him so
Come
eager.
back.
You meant like today.
Right, okay, how about a trade?
You're on. I'll give you a samurai spear and throw in an evil magistrate to boot.
No, not that kind of trade. I don't want cards. I want information.
Huh? You sure? Fine by me.
Your RP card given to Cody. I would have held on to that until he gave you what you wanted to know, but Phoenix, you do you.
It's okay, he's
Yeah.
an honorable child.
Is he? He's crawling through the sewers.
It's not the sewers, it's
Fine.
in the wall.
It's fine.
It's not the sewers.
Okay, Phoenix, let's hear what he has to say.
It's okay, he loves the Steel Samurai. He'll be like, the Steel Samurai would want me to be honorable.
That's true. If you know something that could help us, we can have him take the stand tomorrow.
And get
Oh, that means I probably have to voice him in court
Yeah.
too. Okay.
probably.
Okay, if you want me to do it.
No, I can do it.
Wait.
So you like the Steel Samurai?
Unless you have too many, I have too many characters, then I'll give one, give him
Yeah,
over.
that's true. But you
We'll
also
have to see.
you don't really talk too much during court.
Yeah, I'm only the judge, basically. So there's
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
He's so cool.
I'm shaking ass to this theme song. I guess.
Congrats, man. You were judging him by his looks. You have to look at him, his actions. Look at his actions, at his life.
Oh my god.
I'm being lectured on life by a grade schooler.
You like him too, don't ya?
Oh, me? Yeah, I love the Steel Samurai. It kind of sounds like when Mickey cuts off that they're being thrown like a boomerang and coming back.
Really?
Yeah.
No, I will have to listen to the VOD later, because what the
Yeah,
fuck?
it's really good.
So tell me, what your favorite thing about the Steel Samurai is?
His kind nature. Well,
Kind?
You have to do all of it. I think.
Right. Come on, think of something. I really like his kind nature. What a guy.
Totally. He looks so tough, but inside he's as gentle as a kitten.
Yeah.
So what else do you like about him?
Don't tell me I have to keep this act up.
You do.
So tell me your favorite thing about the Steel Samurai is.
His fighting skills.
Gotta think of something.
Of course.
I like it when he vanquishes his foes.
Yeah, wazam!
It's so true.
The Steel Samurai always wins. Always. Check this out. It's my fan album.
Oh,
Aw.
what? It's all pictures of the Steel Samurai.
I go to every live performance.
Those stupid publicity stunts where they beat each other up in public?
It's awesome.
It's awesome. I always take a picture when the Steel Samurai lands the final blow.
Does
Wazam!
Mickey come back around the Earth or like around the virtual couch you all sit on?
No, I do like a little lap. Yeah.
Both.
I do a
Yeah.
little lap around the earth, you know?
It's out the window, around the Earth, and then back through another window.
Yeah. I got them all. I never missed one. A perfect collection.
He takes the shot just as the Steel Samurai vanquishes his foes, huh?
Mm.
He
Check it
never missed
out.
One.
My new camera. Wow, that's very impressive. The newest model, isn't it? You bet, lady. I just got it for my birthday.
Aww.
My album has a name. Want to hear it? The Steel Samurai. Path to...
Oh my god!
Oh no.
No!
to glory.
He just like keels over.
My bad. The Steel Samurai always wins. Always. Hey, if you want this, you can have it, lady.
Wow.
Really? Are you sure?
I can't get over how cute this is.
It's very
It's
cute.
Her
actually
wide little
really
eyes.
cute.
It's really good. Big ol' eyes.
Aw, Mia.
Cute. Mia.
I miss you.
What do you mean you miss her? She's right there.
I miss her.
Yeah, I took these with a digital camera. I got all the data at home so I can always make another one.
Oh, smart kid.
Oh my gosh, do I need to? Hold on. I need to check to make sure.
Huh?
I just need.
What is happening?
I'm gonna set my Discord priority a little higher just in case.
It might. No, I think I can hear it too, so I think it's Miki.
It might be me.
It's just the.
It might be me. You know what?
Okay.
Goodbye. I'm gonna quickly leave.
Oh, well,
Hello.
welcome back.
Bye.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh.
I don't
okay.
know what's up with that.
No idea. I keep forgetting that I is in my pocket.
Oh yeah, I'm here.
Well, then I'm happy to accept. Thank you.
People are always just giving stuff to Mia.
Good for
It's because she's so
her,
beautiful
honestly.
and kind.
She deserves it.
She was also given a head injury that killed her, but it's fine.
She
Well,
everything.
that
Sure.
It's a
Wait.
gift.
It's a gift.
What's with people
yeah.
always giving stuff to Mia? What a life.
Mhm.
She's got pretty privilege.
Yeah, well,
She
once
really
again-
does.
Once again, though, Phoenix, she was gifted a
a
blow
death,
to the head
a death
to kill
blow.
her.
Yeah.
Question mark?
Yeah. Maybe if you didn't style your hair in the stupid spiky hairstyle, people would give you
Maybe
things
people
too.
will gift you things too.
Yeah. It's a choice.
Mhm.
You were here on the day of the incident, right?
The incident.
Yeah.
Did you see anything unusual?
Ellipses. Cody.
He's locked in
Exclamation
now.
mark.
He's-
Cody, he needs to know because he's fighting for justice. Isn't that the Steel Samurai's motto? For great justice? You have to help us fight for great justice too. I saw everything.
well, we might get some useful information out of him yet. What you saw? Cody! I need to ask you something very important. What did you see on the day of the incident?
Ellipses. I got here that day around 2 o'clock. I had to come in through the woods out back so that old lady wouldn't see me. I got kind of lost though. I was in there for maybe a half hour or so. Then I finally got to the studio. After that... What is it, Cody? Oh my god. It is glitching out again.
Oh, it did a little bit.
Hello?
Hello? Hello?
Oh no. Oh, Discord's
Uh-oh.
not happy right now.
Miki.
Uh-oh,
Hello?
Vicky. No,
Hello?
Vicky. I hear
Having
you.
connection issues. Hello.
We hear you.
Hello?
Hello? We hear you.
Hello?
Vicky!
Hello? Hello?
Mickey, no! We hear you, Vicky.
Hello? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we hear
Jesus
you.
Christ, that was weird. Okay, I don't know why my internet's just fucking up so badly today. What the fuck?
That might have been it
Fucked
from
up.
earlier, yeah.
We could end soon.
The Steel Samurai killed the bad guy.
Yeah, it's almost 3
Yeah.
hours. We'll probably get to a save spot soon.
Yeah. I think we're probably almost done with the investigation. We could just finish up then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He just uses samurai spear, just like always. One shot, one kill.
One shot,
One
one kill.
One kill.
I tried to get these lines before I start glitching again. happened so fast, I got scared. I went home after that.
Buzz you.
Gesundheit.
I see. It must have been hard for you.
Man, you say those nice things, but it's so obvious you aren't speaking from the heart.
What? Right. Mia?
Yes?
I think we can say for sure this means the Steel Samurai did it.
True enough.
And the director has an alibi, so it wasn't him.
Indeed.
So the only person left who it could have been is Will Powers. Phoenix, you idiot.
Phoenix.
She's even like, for real?
For real. I have to admit, it's kind of a shock. But if you put this boy on the witness stand, your client would be guilty for sure.
Let's not call him then.
I think that would be wise. Best to leave this one alone.
Oh, we know what this is.
Not so not so fast, pal. I hold everything.
Everything.
This boy here is a key witness. And he's under police protection starting now.
He's under police protection. Come here.
Come on, swine.
Come on, son. You got wonderful.
You've got
down at the precinct. Sorry.
Do you want to voice him? I've been doing it all day.
I can do it. I'll do it.
You can do it.
You got a wonderful living down at the precinct.
No, I ain't going.
Oh my god.
Jesus Christ.
That's snatched. That's poor fucking child.
That didn't go well. We're back to 0 leads. And now we have a serious handicap in court.
Uh-oh.
What are we gonna do, Mia?
Well,
I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go back to being a ghost and leave you to deal with it.
yeah, good luck with that. This is not really within
Bye.
my jurisdiction anymore.
Bye.
Bye. I really need to be going.
She's for real leaving.
Sorry.
I've gotta go.
Don't worry, Phoenix. I'm sure you'll be fine.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Come to the trial tomorrow, please. I need you there.
Phoenix, can I ask you something? Do you really believe that Mr. Powers is innocent?
I believe. Of course he is.
That's all I wanted to hear. Excellent. I'll see you in court then.
Great. Thanks, Mia.
See you soon. Bye.
To be continued. Oh
Right
my
at 9 o'clock.
gosh. Yes, save my progress.
Yahoo!
Day 3 trial.
Yahoo!
Okay, now I gotta spam escape to let me out. Let me out, let me out, let me out, let me out, let me out.
October 19th, 9:42
Let me out, let
a.m.
me out.
District Court Defendant Lobby number 1.
Get out of here. You don't need to
Get
save
out of
again. You just
here.
did.
Okay. Alright.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
How we
Okay.
feeling?
We're feeling despair and despair.
I'm feeling silly.
Yeah, you got that Gatorade up there. I saw you
Gatorade.
about to do up there.
Listen, you didn't have to say those words to me, man.
I didn't have to, but I wanted to.
That's fair. I think that's fair.
Oh my gosh. Let's see. I can probably... Oh, I think Lux is about to end. Oh god, hold on. Who else is online?
God.
God's online. That's crazy. Oh, Mandy's playing Kingdom Hearts.
Ooh.
How long has Mandy been? Only an hour? I can send you guys to Mandy.
What?
Raid.
Yeah.
Raid Mall Dummy. Mandy is super epic and cool. An amazing artist. And they have their little Kingdom Hearts PNG on right now. It's so cute.
Aww.
Mall Dummy. Yes, post please. Yippee!
Yippee! Yahoo!
Alright, everybody. Thank you for coming to hang out.
Thanks for driving, everybody.
Let's see. They changed around my working days this week. I could do like a small stream tomorrow night, or it'll be Saturday.
Well, I can't do Saturday, so.
Oh no,
my Eidolon day.
Yeah, if I do,
as long as it's in the evening, I'm always fine.
Yeah, if I do, it'll be like something like Minecraft or something. Or who knows?
Alone. Well,
or me alone. Yeah.
Viviana Land.
Or I might even be able to swing Friday. We'll have to see. I keep telling myself, I'm like, you have to do another small stream during the weekend. I keep forgetting.
As a treat.
As a tweet.
So do like a funny Minecraft.
Where I can speak evils into your ear.
Well, see, when I do Minecraft, I have to do it with no mic, or else I won't do what I want to do.
Oh.
Because I get so distracted.
I promise that if you do a Minecraft stream and I'm around, I'll try to make sure you stay on track and not.
Okay.
Blood.
Oh, it's sending you guys over. So goodbye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Have a good night. Goodbye.
You better.